The chain wrapped around Titan's neck before Marcus could breathe. The Belgian Malinois yelped a sound Marcus hadn't heard since Kabul, and 3 men laughed as the dog's legs buckled. Marcus's hands didn't shake. They never did anymore. But something ancient and terrible woke behind his eyes as Dante Voss stepped from the shadows, smiling that politician's smile that made Marcus's trigger finger itch. "Your dog, my message," Dante said, tightening the chain. Titan's eyes found Marcus's that same look from the day they'd both bled out in the desert, trusting, waiting. Marcus's voice came out quiet, dead. "Let him go." Dante laughed. "Or what, old man? Before we continue, please subscribe and follow this story to the end. Comment below with your city so I can see how far this story has traveled. Now let's begin." The bus doors hissed open at 4:47 a.m., and Marcus Reeves stepped into Anchor Bay with a duffel bag that had survived 2 wars and a dog that had survived 3. Titan moved first, always first, his black and tan coat catching the streetlight as he scanned the empty pier ears rotating like radar dishes. The Belgian Malinois was 7 years old, every scar hidden under fur, every instinct sharpened by missions Marcus tried forgetting. "Clear," Marcus murmured, though no one was around to hear. Titan sat weight on his good hip. The left one never healed right after Helmand Province. Neither did Marcus's shoulder. They were a matched set, broken things pretending to work. The boathouse waited at the end of the dock, exactly where Uncle Ray's letters had described it before the cancer took him. Marcus had the key in his pocket, and no plan beyond sleeping somewhere that didn't smell like diesel and other people's regret. "Home," he told Titan, not believing it. They walked the pier boards, wood groaning under boots that had crossed deserts and mountains, and places that didn't exist on maps. Titan stayed close the way he'd been trained, the way he'd chosen to stay even after the training ended, and the missions turned into nightmares neither of them discussed. The boathouse door stuck. Marcus shouldered it open, and they stepped into darkness that smelled like salt and motor oil and abandonment. He dropped the duffel, and Titan immediately swept the space, checking corners, testing shadows, doing the job that would never leave his blood. "Stand down," Marcus said softly. Titan returned, looked up with amber eyes that held questions Marcus couldn't answer. "Why here? Why now? Why pretend we're anything but what we are?" Marcus knelt, pressed his forehead against the dog's skull. "I'm tired, brother. So damn tired." Titan's tail thumped once. Agreement. Understanding. The kind of communication that didn't need words, because they'd been forged in fire. Morning came cold and gray. Marcus woke to Titan's low growl, not alarm, just notation. Someone was outside. Marcus moved to the window, staying in the shadow, watching the pier come alive with fishermen and dock workers and the machinery of a town trying not to die. "Easy," he whispered. Titan's growl faded, but his attention stayed locked on a black SUV parked near the harbor master's office. Too clean, too expensive. Wrong for a place where rust was currency. Marcus filed it away. Not his problem. Not anymore. He dressed in clothes that had no unit patches, no memories attached. Jeans, canvas jacket, work boots that could have belonged to anyone. Invisibility was the point. He'd been Ghost in the teams, the one who got in and out without anyone knowing he'd been there. He'd wear that name here, too, if wearing anything at all. "Come on," he said. They walked into town as the sun tried pushing through clouds that had settled in for the long haul. Anchor Bay was exactly what the bus driver had promised, dying slow, one closed storefront at a time. The cannery was gone. The lumber mill was gone. What remained were people holding on because leaving took more courage than staying. Marcus found the diner because diners were always the same. Coffee was cheap. Questions were cheaper, and nobody cared where you'd been as long as you could pay. Elena Cruz was wiping down tables when they walked in. She looked up, took in Marcus first, then Titan, then made a decision that showed in her shoulders. "Dog-friendly?" Marcus asked. "Depends on the dog." Titan sat without being told, perfect posture, eyes forward. Elena studied him with the kind of knowing that came from experience. "Service dog, something like that." She nodded, pointed to a corner booth. "Water bowls by the kitchen. Coffee's fresh. Breakfast specials, eggs, toast, and whatever you're running from, I don't ask about it." Marcus almost smiled. "Appreciated." He took the booth that gave him sight lines to both doors and the kitchen. Titan settled under the table head, on pause, body relaxed, but ready. They'd sat this way in Kandahar, in Ramadi, in places where relaxed meant dead if you guessed wrong. Elena brought coffee without asking. "You Ray's nephew?" Statement, not question. "Yes, ma'am." "Heard you were coming. Sorry about Ray. He was good people." She set the mug down, dark eyes measuring Marcus the way soldiers measured threats, quick, thorough, final. Town's not what it was. Towns never are. This one especially. She glanced toward the window, toward the black SUV still idling near the harbor. "You looking for work?" "If there is any." "Docs might need help. Mike Torrance runs the warehouse. Tell him Elena sent you. He'll give you a fair shake." She paused. "Others won't, just so you know." Others. But Elena was already walking away, done with the conversation, done with saying more than she should. Marcus watched her disappear into the kitchen, then looked down at Titan. "Complicated," he muttered. Titan's ear flicked. "Always is." The warehouse was exactly where Elena said it would be. End of the North Pier corrugated metal and faded paint and the smell of fish that had soaked into the concrete decades ago. Marcus walked up to the open bay door where 3 men were unloading pallets from a rusted truck. "Looking for Mike Torrance," Marcus called. The youngest one, maybe 25, with arms like dock rope, jerked his thumb toward the office. "Inside, knock first. He's cranky before 9. Marcus nodded, started toward the office, but Titan stopped. Full stop. Weight back. Eyes locked on the black SUV that had followed them from the diner, parking now across the street with too much intention. "What have you got?" Marcus asked quietly. Titan's growl started low, rolled up from his chest. Not aggression recognition. The kind of sound he made when he'd identified a threat that wasn't immediate, but was inevitable. The SUV doors opened. 4 men got out. The one in front wore a leather jacket that probably cost more than the truck being unloaded. Dark hair slicked back, smile that didn't reach his eyes. Walk that said he owned whatever he was looking at. Dante Voss. Had to be. The way the dock workers suddenly found other things to do, the way their shoulders hunched without them realizing it, that only happened around predators who'd proven what they'd do when crossed. "Help you?" Marcus asked, keeping his voice neutral. Dante stopped 5 feet away, close enough to invade space, far enough to retreat if necessary. "Marcus Reeves. Heard you rolled into town. Thought I'd welcome you personally. Appreciated." "That your dog?" "Yes." "Good-looking animal." Dante's eyes shifted to Titan. "Belgian Malinois, right military. Retired. Like you." Dante's smile widened. "Funny thing about retirement, some guys never really manage it. They bring their work with them. Bad habits, old training, problems." Marcus said nothing. Silence was a weapon most people couldn't handle. They filled it with words that told you everything you needed to know. Dante waited, realized Marcus wasn't biting, then shrugged. "Mike Torrance won't hire you. Neither will anyone else on this pier. Just saving you the trouble of asking." "Why's that?" "Because I said so." Dante stepped closer. Titan placed himself between them without Marcus saying a word. Dante's 3 men tensed hands, moving toward waistbands. That dog got a problem. He's protective. Of what? An old seal with bad knees and worse memories. Dante laughed, looked at his men, made sure they laughed too. Here's how Anchor Bay works, Marcus. I run the docks, I run the boats, I run what comes in and what goes out. You want to exist here, you exist around me, understand? No. The word landed flat, hard. Dante's smile flickered. No, I don't work for men I don't respect. The silence that followed was different, sharp, dangerous. Dante's men stopped laughing. Titan's growl deepened. Marcus kept his hands visible, relaxed, unthreatening. But his weight was balanced, his breathing steady. If this went bad, it would go bad in under 3 seconds, and he'd already mapped how. Dante's jaw worked. You just made a mistake, old man. Maybe. Walk away now, take your dog. And maybe I forget this conversation. Or, Dante leaned in, voice dropping, or I make sure you remember why you should have stayed wherever the hell you crawled out from. Marcus met his eyes cold flat, the look that had made insurgents reconsider their life choices in the half-second before the shooting started. Try. Dante blinked first. He covered it with a laugh, backing up, hands spread. Tough guy. I like that. Makes it more fun when they break. He turned, walked toward his SUV, then stopped. Nice dog. Be a shame if something happened to him. The threat hung there crystalline and clear. Marcus watched them drive away, then looked down at Titan. The dog was vibrating, muscles locked, waiting for the release command that would have sent him after the threat, neutralizing it with the precision they'd trained for years. Stand down, Marcus said quietly. Titan relaxed, but his eyes stayed on the retreating SUV. Behind them, the youngest dock worker had stopped pretending to work. You're either the dumbest son of a bitch I've ever seen or the bravest. Can't decide which. Neither. Just tired of being pushed. Dante Voss doesn't push. He buries. The kid looked genuinely concerned. My name's Aaron. My dad used to run this pier before Dante took over. He told me if I ever saw someone stand up to Dante like that, I should warn them it always ends the same way. How's that? Blood or disappearance? Your choice. Marcus nodded slowly. Appreciate the warning. You gonna leave? No. Aaron studied him, then Titan. That dog, military working dog, was. Figures. Only military guys are stupid enough to think they can fight City Hall when City Hall has guns and no conscience. Aaron shook his head. Mike won't hire you. Nobody will. Dante owns this town. Somebody else own the next one. Probably. But not Dante. Then I'll try there. By noon, Marcus had confirmed Aaron's assessment. 5 businesses, 5 versions of the same conversation, polite refusals, nervous eyes, apologies that meant I'm afraid of what happens if I help you. He was walking back toward the boathouse when Elena appeared beside him, moving quick and quiet for a woman who'd spent decades on her feet. Told you, she said. You did. Still looking, still breathing. She almost smiled. Kitchen help, night shift. Washing dishes, prepping food, taking out trash. Pays minimum wage and comes with a side of Dante showing up eventually to make his point. Marcus stopped walking. Why risk it? Elena looked at Titan, who'd moved ahead to check a sound only he could hear. My husband was Marines. He died in Fallujah doing something brave and stupid because that's what Marines do. Her voice didn't waver. You got that same look he had, like you're already dead, so fear doesn't work anymore. I need someone like that. Someone who won't run when Dante comes. I'm not a hero. Didn't ask you to be. Asked if you could wash dishes. I can wash dishes. Good. Be there at 4. Side door. Titan can stay in the back office. I got a couch he can use. She started walking away, then turned back. Marcus. Whatever Dante threatened about your dog, he means it. He heard a lot of things in this town trying to prove he's scarier than he is. Don't give him the chance. She left before Marcus could respond. Titan returned, looked up with that question in his eyes. Staying Marcus scratched behind the dog's ears, feeling old scars under the fur. Little while longer. The diner's kitchen was small, hot, and honest, 3 things Marcus appreciated. Elena worked the front, her daughter Rosa handled orders, and Marcus stayed in the back where steam and scalding water and the rhythm of work kept him from thinking too much. Titan claimed the office couch like it had been waiting for him, curling into a ball that made him look smaller than he was. Marcus checked on him twice in the first hour, then realized the dog was asleep, really asleep, the kind that only came when the body finally believed it was safe. "He okay?" Rosa asked, appearing in the doorway. She was 17, Elena's eyes and her father's defiance. She'd been watching Titan with the kind of careful interest that said she knew what those scars meant. "Fine, thanks. He's beautiful. What's his name? Titan. Like the moon." She smiled. "Or like the mythology, both. Dad had a dog, shepherd mix. Said the dog saved him more times than his unit did." Rosa's smile faded. "Dog died a year before Dad did. Mom said he never really recovered from that." Marcus rinsed a plate, set it in the rack. "Dogs like that don't get replaced." "You replace yours?" "Didn't need to. Still got him." Rosa nodded understanding, passing between them without explanation. "Dante came by yesterday. Asked about you." Marcus's hand stilled. "What did your mom say? That you were washing dishes and it was none of his business?" Rosa leaned against the door frame. "He said it would be. Said everything in Anchor Bay was his business eventually." "Your mom's scared, terrified, but she's also stubborn as hell. Comes from raising a kid alone in a town that tried forgetting she existed." Rosa pushed off the wall. "I graduate in June. Got accepted to Oregon State. Full ride. Mom thinks I don't know she's been putting every extra dime away to make sure I can actually go. Dante knows too. He offered to help with expenses if Mom was friendlier about certain business arrangements." Marcus turned, really looking at her now. "What did she say?" "Told him to go to hell in Spanish. Very specific Spanish." Rosa grinned, but it didn't last. "He doesn't forget stuff like that. And now you're here, and she's helping you, and I'm worried she's collecting enemies faster than she can afford them." "I'll leave if it's a problem." "Don't you dare. She needs someone who isn't afraid, even if it's just a guy washing dishes with a war dog sleeping in the office." Rosa turned to leave, then paused. "Marcus? Whatever you were before, whatever you and Titan did, Dante's not that. He's just a bully with money and guys who hit people for him. Don't let him make you think he's more than that." She left before Marcus could tell her that bullies with money and guys who hit for them were sometimes more dangerous than trained soldiers, because soldiers had rules and bullies only had appetite. At 11 p.m., Elena locked the front door and joined Marcus in the kitchen. They cleaned in silence, the good kind, where 2 people who'd both survived things understood that words weren't always necessary. "You can take leftovers," Elena said, finally packing containers without asking if he wanted them. "Rosa makes too much on purpose, says it's for the staff." "Staff's just me." "Then I guess you're eating well this week?" She handed him the bag, then hesitated. "Dante will come. Maybe tonight, maybe next week, but he'll come. When he does, I won't break your place." "I wasn't worried about the place. I was worried about you." Marcus looked at her directly. "I can handle Dante Voss. That's what worries me. Men like you men who've done what you've done, you handle things permanently. This town can't afford that kind of attention." Elena crossed her arms. "I need you to promise me something. When Dante shows up, you walk away. You take Titan and you walk out the door and you let him say whatever he needs to say to feel big. Can you do that? Marcus thought about it. Really thought about it. I can try. That's not a promise. It's the truth. I don't make promises I might not keep. Elena studied him for a long moment, then sighed. Ray said you were honest. Said it was your best quality, and your worst. She moved toward the office where Titan had lifted his head, sensing Marcus nearby. Go home. Get some sleep. Come back tomorrow if you still want the job. I want it. Then I'll see you at 4. Marcus collected Titan, who stretched and yawned and followed him out into the night. The walk back to the boathouse took 10 minutes, long enough for Marcus to feel eyes tracking them from the shadows. He didn't look. Looking only confirmed what everyone already knew he was aware: trained, dangerous. Invisibility was better, but when they reached the boathouse and Titan stopped at the door growling low, Marcus knew invisibility had already failed. Someone had been inside. The door wasn't broken, wasn't forced, but the smell was wrong cologne and cigarettes, and the particular funk of men who sweated too much when they were trying to scare someone who wasn't there. Marcus opened the door slowly. Titan surged ahead, clearing the space with professional efficiency, then stopped in the center of the room, staring at the duffel bag. It had been opened. Contents dumped. Nothing taken that wasn't the point. The point was the message. We can reach you whenever we want. Marcus knelt, repacked his things carefully. Clothes, toiletries. The picture of his unit he kept folded in a boot, all of them smiling, all of them dead now except him. And at the bottom, the purple heart and silver star he'd never display wrapped in the American flag from Uncle Ray's funeral. They didn't take anything, Marcus said quietly, more to himself than Titan, because theft wasn't the game. Terror was. He checked the rest of the boathouse. No cameras, no bugs, no actual damage, just the violation of space, the reminder that nowhere was safe when Dante decided it wasn't. Marcus sat on the cot, Titan pressed against his leg. Should have stayed on that bus. Titan's eyes said something different. You never stay on buses, that's not who we are. Yeah, Marcus agreed. But maybe it should be. He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat in the dark, listening to Titan breathe, watching the pier through the window. At 3 a.m., a truck rolled past, slow windows down, spotlight sweeping the boathouse. Marcus didn't move. Titan didn't move. They waited until the truck passed, then waited longer, because patience was the first lesson and the last one that mattered. At 3:45, Marcus stood dressed, checked Titan's water. Come on, work. They walked to the diner through pre-dawn darkness that smelled like ocean and diesel and the kind of cold that got into bones and stayed there. The diner's lights were already on, Elena opening early, Rosa probably studying in the booth by the window like she did every morning before school. But when Marcus reached the door, it was locked, and through the glass, he saw Elena, standing very still in the center of the dining room, hands raised, while 3 of Dante's men stood between her and the register. Rosa was on the floor, blood on her lip, and Dante Voss was smiling. Marcus's hand found Titan's collar. The dog was already vibrating, reading Marcus's heartbeat, his breathing the chemical change that happened when a soldier shifted from person to weapon. Not yet, Marcus whispered, because going in now meant going in loud, and loud meant police, and police meant questions about why a retired SEAL was breaking arms in a diner at 4 a.m. But then Dante said something that made Elena flinch, made Rosa cry, and Titan felt the moment Marcus's grip changed from restraint to release. The dog looked up. Now Marcus's voice came out flat, dead, the voice that only appeared when the humanity turned off and the training turned on. Titan, Watch. He reached for the door, and everything in Anchor Bay changed. The door opened silent under Marcus's hand because he'd learned 20 years ago how to move through spaces without announcing himself. Titan flowed in first low and fast, positioning himself between Rosa and the nearest man before anyone registered movement. Marcus was 3 steps behind closing distance, calculating angles, identifying the primary threat. Not Dante, never the loud one, but the enforcer on the left, whose hand was already moving toward his waistband. "Don't," Marcus said. One word. Quiet. Final. The enforcer's hand stopped. Not because Marcus had threatened him, but because something in Marcus's voice carried the weight of men who'd stopped breathing after ignoring similar warnings. Dante turned, smile widening when he saw Marcus. "Well, didn't expect the dishwasher to interrupt." "Door was open," Marcus lied. "No, it wasn't." Dante gestured casually. "But I appreciate the balls it took to walk in anyway. Shows character. Stupid character, but character." Elena's eyes found Marcus's. She shook her head slightly. "Don't not worth it, walk away." Rosa was still on the floor holding her jaw, tears cutting tracks through the blood on her lip. She looked at Titan first, then at Marcus, and something like hope flickered across her face, before fear smothered it again. "You should leave," the enforcer on the left said. His name was Cole. Marcus had heard dock workers mention him with the kind of quiet terror reserved for rabid dogs. Cole was 6'3", 240 with scarred knuckles and dead eyes that said he'd hurt people for free before Dante started paying him for it. "Can't," Marcus said. "I'm here for my shift." "Shift's cancelled," Dante cut in. "Elena and I are having a private conversation about business arrangements, employee safety, that kind of thing." He looked down at Rosa. "Kids get hurt in unsafe work environments. Terrible liability." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Rosa, stand up. Come here." "She stays," Cole said, moving between them. Titan's growl started low, building into something that made the second enforcer younger, thinner, more nervous take a step back. The dog's lips peeled away from teeth that had torn through ballistic padding during training through flesh and bone in Helmand, when extraction went sideways and Marcus had been pinned down with a sucking chest wound and Titan had been the only thing between him and a shallow grave. "Control your dog," Dante said, but his voice had lost some of its smoothness. "He is controlled," Marcus replied. "He's just making his position clear." "Which is, between your men and the girl," when Cole laughed. "You think that mutt scares me?" "I think he should." The third man, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. His name was Ray Different. Ray, not Uncle Ray, and he was older, harder with the kind of prison ink that told stories about mistakes that compounded. "Dante, maybe we should—" "Shut up." Dante's smile had vanished. "I'm making a point here." "Point's made," Marcus said. "Elena heard you. I heard you. Time to leave." "Or what?" Cole stepped closer, chest out, chin forward, performing dominance the way men did when they'd never met actual violence. "You gonna make me, old man?" Marcus had fought in 14 countries. He'd killed 23 men whose names he knew, and probably twice that many whose names he didn't. He'd carried wounded teammates through crossfire, performed field surgery with a K-bar, and duct tape talked down a suicide bomber in Pashto, while his hands shook so hard he could barely hold his rifle. Violence wasn't something he performed. It was something he carried always like a loaded weapon, with the safety perpetually off. "No," Marcus said quietly. "I'm going to ask you nicely to step aside so Rosa can stand up. And you're going to do it." "Why would I do that?" "Because the alternative is Titan removes you, and you won't like how he does it." Cole glanced at the dog. Titan had gone perfectly still the way he did in the 3 seconds before he breached a door or took down a target. Every muscle was coiled, waiting for the release word that would turn him from animal into weapon. "It's a dog," Cole said, but he didn't sound convinced anymore. "He's a military working dog with 3 combat deployments and a bite force of 240 pounds per square inch," Marcus said, voice still quiet, still reasonable. "He's been trained to identify threats, neutralize them, and return to handler without additional commands. Right now, you're the threat. I give him the word, and in 4 seconds you'll be on the ground with his teeth in your shoulder wondering why you thought this was a good idea." Elena found her voice. "Marcus, don't." "Not planning to." He looked at Dante. "But I'm also not watching while you terrorize people for sport." Dante studied Marcus for a long moment, something calculating moving behind his eyes. "You're different than the others." "How's that? The ones who stood up before they yelled, got emotional, made threats they couldn't back up." Dante took a step closer. "You're just calm, like you've already decided how this ends, and you're just waiting for me to figure it out." "I haven't decided anything," Marcus said. "I just want to wash dishes and stay out of your way. But you're in this diner before dawn, scaring a woman who's never done anything but work hard and raise her daughter right. That bothers me." "Bothers you?" Dante laughed, but it sounded forced. "What are you, her knight in shining armor? I'm her employee, and employees protect the business." Cole had heard enough. He moved faster than Marcus expected from someone his size, closing the distance with his right hand reaching for Marcus's collar. It was a mistake. Marcus redirected the arm, used Cole's momentum against him, and had the bigger man's wrist locked in a joint manipulation that sent him to his knees before Cole's brain could process what had happened. "Don't," Marcus said again, applying just enough pressure to make his point without breaking bone. "Get up, walk out, nobody gets hurt." Cole's face had gone white. "You're breaking my fucking wrist." "Not yet, but I could." Marcus looked at Dante. "This what you want?" Hospital Bill's police report's attention. The younger enforcer had pulled a knife. Stupid panicked, the kind of decision that got people killed. Titan didn't wait for the command. He moved, covering the distance in 2 bounds, and hit the man center mass with 70 pounds of muscle and momentum. The knife clattered across the floor. The enforcer screamed, then stopped screaming when Titan's jaws closed around his forearm, not breaking, not tearing, just holding with enough pressure to make the message clear. "Off," Marcus said. Titan released immediately, backed up 3 steps and sat. Blood dripped from his muzzle. The enforcer clutched his arm, whimpering. Prison Ray had his hands up, stepping back. I'm good, not moving." Dante's face had gone rigid. "You just assaulted my people." "They assaulted first," Marcus said, releasing Cole's wrist. "Self-defense. Ask Elena." Elena nodded shakily. "They came in threatening me. Marcus was protecting us." "That how you're playing this?" Dante's voice had dropped, lost all pretense of civility. "You think you're the hero? You think this town's going to thank you for standing up to the big bad villain?" "I think you should leave," Marcus said. "And I think you should leave Elena alone. And Rosa. And anyone else who's just trying to survive in a town you've been bleeding dry." Bold words from a man who just made a very permanent enemy. "Wouldn't be my first." Dante stared at him, something dark and furious working behind his eyes. Then he smiled again, and this smile was worse than the anger. "You have no idea what you just started." "Then explain it to me." "I don't need to. You'll figure it out soon enough." Dante jerked his head toward his men. "Let's go." Cole stood, cradling his wrist. The younger enforcer was still crying. Prison Ray just looked tired, like he'd seen this movie before, and knew how it ended. They left. The door closed. Silence flooded the diner like water after a dam break. Marcus moved immediately to Rosa, helping her up. "You okay?" She nodded, but her hands were shaking. "He hit me. Cole hit me because I told him Mom didn't keep cash here overnight. I know, I'm sorry." Elena had collapsed into a booth, face in her hands. "What did you do, Marcus? What did you just do?" "What needed doing?" "You don't understand. Dante doesn't lose. He can't afford to. Every person in this town who's ever challenged him has either left or—" She trailed off, looking at Rosa. "You need to leave. Tonight. Both of you." "I'm not leaving." Titan whined softly, pressing against Marcus's leg. Marcus scratched the dog's ears, checking for injuries. The blood on Titan's muzzle wasn't his, it never was. The dog had been shot twice, blown up once, and still came back for more, because that's what loyalty looked like when it was forged in hell. Rosa sat down hard, adrenaline draining. "Mom, we can't ask him to leave because he protected us." "I'm not asking him. I'm begging him." Elena looked at Marcus with something like desperation. "You don't know what Dante's capable of. Last year, a fisherman refused to pay Dante's docking fees. His boat burned. The year before that, a shop owner tried reporting Dante to the county. His shop got vandalized every night for 2 weeks until he closed permanently. 3 months ago, a bartender at the Anchor testified against one of Dante's dealers. He disappeared. They found him eventually, but—" Elena's voice broke. "This town has learned to survive by not fighting back. You just threw that out the window." Marcus pulled out a chair, sat down slowly. His shoulder ached. It always ached when the weather changed, or when he moved too fast, or when he remembered why it ached in the first place. "I can't watch people get hurt and do nothing." "Why not everyone else does?" "Because I've done nothing before, in places where doing nothing meant someone died who shouldn't have. And I carry those names with me. Every single one." Marcus looked at Titan. "So does he. We don't add more." Elena wiped her eyes. "You're going to get yourself killed." "Maybe, but at least I'll have tried." Rosa had stopped crying. She was looking at Marcus with something that might have been hope, or might have been the kind of desperate faith that showed up when you'd run out of other options. "What do we do now?" "Now you call the police, report what happened, and say that Dante Voss came into my diner and threatened me. You think Sheriff Blake will do anything?" Elena laughed bitterly. "Blake's been on Dante's payroll for 5 years. He'll take the report, file it in a drawer, and warn me about making false accusations. Then call the state police, FBI, someone outside Dante's reach. And while we wait for them to investigate, if they investigate Dante, burns my diner down with us in it." Marcus considered this. She was right. Official channels took time, and time was a luxury they didn't have. Dante had been embarrassed in front of his men. He'd lost face. In the economy of violence and fear that Dante traded in, that meant immediate, overwhelming retaliation. "Okay," Marcus said finally. "Different approach. You both pack bags, essentials only. Go stay with family outside town, somewhere Dante won't think to look." Elena shook her head. "I leave, I lose the diner. Dante will make sure of it." "You stay, you might lose more than that." "This diner is all I have. It's how I'm paying for Rosa's college. It's how I eat, how I live. I can't just walk away." "Mom," Rosa started. "No." Elena's voice firmed. "No, I've run before. From bad men, bad situations, bad luck. I'm done running. This is my place. If Dante wants it, he'll have to take it from me." Marcus recognized that tone. He'd used it himself usually right before making decisions that almost got him killed. "Then we make this place harder to take." "How?" "Cameras, lights, locks that actually work. I'll install them today." "With what money?" "Mine." "You don't have money. You're washing dishes for minimum wage." Marcus didn't mention the cash he'd brought, 3 years of combat pay hazard bonuses and re-enlistment incentives he'd never spent, because there was nothing to spend it on, in places where the only currencies were bullets and time. "I'll manage." Elena studied him. Why risk yourself for people you barely know?" Because your husband was Marines and Marines take care of their own. Because Rosa's got a full ride to Oregon State and she deserves to use it. Because this diner smells like the place my uncle used to take me when I was 8, and I'm tired of watching good things disappear because bad men want them to. Marcus stood. And because Titan likes the couch in your office, and that dog's had enough bad days. He's earned some good ones. At the sound of his name, Titan's tail thumped twice. Rosa laughed despite everything. That's your reason. Your dog likes our couch. Dogs know things people forget. They know who's safe and who isn't. Titan trusts you. That's enough for me. Elena's expression softened. You're going to make this worse, aren't you? Probably. And you're staying anyway. Yes, ma'am. She closed her eyes, some internal battle playing out behind her tired face. When she opened them again, something had shifted. Okay, cameras, locks, lights, make it secure. But Marcus, when Dante comes back, and he will come back, you don't fight him here. You take it outside, away from Rosa, away from my place. Promise me that. I promise. I don't believe you, but I appreciate the lie. Marcus almost smiled. Fair enough. They spent the next hour cleaning up, wiping blood, straightening chairs, pretending the diner could go back to normal with enough bleach and elbow grease. Rosa helped without being asked, moving through trauma the way kids learned to when trauma became routine. Marcus watched her saw the same 1,000-yard stare he'd seen in villages where childhood ended early and came back wrong. At 6 a.m., the first regular customer arrived, old Tom, a fisherman who'd been coming to Elena's since the place opened. He looked at the three of them, at Titan sitting alert by the kitchen door, at the tension that still hung in the air like smoke. Trouble? Tom asked. Handled, Elena said. Tom nodded slowly. Heard Dante's boys were driving around early. Heard shouting. His eyes found Marcus. You Ray's nephew. The seal. Was a seal. Now I'm just washing dishes. Uh-huh. Tom sat at the counter. Coffee. Black. Extra hot. Elena poured without comment. Tom sipped, winced at the temperature, then looked directly at Marcus. Whatever happened here this morning, it's gonna spread. Whole town'll know by lunch. You understand that? Yes, sir. You understand what that means? I have an idea. No, you don't. You think you do, but you don't. Tom set his mug down carefully. This town's been under Dante's thumb for 8 years. We've learned to live with it because fighting means losing everything. But every so often someone new shows up who hasn't learned that lesson yet. They fight back. Dante makes an example. Town gets quieter. Circle repeats. You saying I should have let them hurt Rosa? I'm saying you just painted a target on your back big enough to see from space. And when Dante shoots at that target, he doesn't miss. Tom pulled out his wallet, left cash on the counter. But since you're here anyway, and since Ray spoke highly of you in his letters, I'll tell you something useful. Marcus waited. Dante's operation runs on 2 things, fear and money. Fear keeps people in line. Money keeps people supplied. He moves shipments through the harbor 3 times a week. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Coast Guards paid off. Harbor masters paid off. But the trucks that move the cargo, those drivers are independent contractors. They know where everything goes, who pays for what, which businesses are fronts. Tom stood. You want to hurt Dante? You don't fight him. You make his business unprofitable. You make him vulnerable. Then you let people see he's just a man. Why? Why tell me this? Because my daughter went to school with Rosa. Because Elena gave me credit when I couldn't pay after the boat engine died. Because this town deserves better than Dante Voss, and maybe, just maybe, you're stupid enough to give it to us. Tom headed for the door, then paused. Word of advice. Seal. Get yourself a gun. Dante's boys don't fight fair, and your dog can't be everywhere at once. He left. Marcus looked at Elena. He always that helpful? Only when he thinks someone might actually make a difference. Elena refilled Tom's coffee mug, automatically, muscle memory taking over. He's right, though. About the gun. I don't carry anymore. Why not? Because the last time Marcus had held a weapon in anger, he'd killed 3 insurgents in a room that also contained 2 children who'd been sleeping in the corner. And even though the after-action report had cleared him, even though his CO had told him there was no way to know, even though the children had survived, Marcus had handed in his sidearm and sworn he was done. He'd left the teams 6 months later. Personal reasons, Marcus said. Rosa had been listening. What about Titan? Is he trained to protect you? Yes. Without you telling him to? Sometimes. Depends on the threat level. Marcus watched the dog, who'd moved to the window, tracking something outside. Titan's got better instincts than most people. If he thinks something's wrong, it usually is. As if summoned by the conversation, Titan's growl started again. Low, sustained warning. Marcus moved to the window, staying out of direct sightline. A black truck was parked across the street. Different truck, same intention. 2 men sat in the cab watching the diner. They're establishing pattern, Marcus said quietly. Logging who comes in, who leaves when you're vulnerable. Should we close? Rosa asked. No. That's what they want. They want you scared enough to shut down, isolated enough to be easy targets. Marcus pulled out his phone, a basic flip model he'd bought at a gas station, because smartphones felt like leashes. I'm calling in a favor. From who? Someone who owes me. He dialed a number he hadn't used in 2 years. It rang 4 times before a familiar voice answered. This better be good. Jackson, it's Ghost. Silence on the other end, then, holy shit, you alive? Barely, need help. Where? Oregon, town called Anchor Bay. Got a situation. What kind of situation? Local crime boss is leaning on civilians, needs to be backed off. More silence. You calling in the team? No team, just you, if you're available. Jackson Hayes had been Marcus's spotter for 3 years, the kind of partnership that required absolute trust, because one missed call meant someone died. He'd left the teams a year before Marcus opened a security consulting business in Seattle and made it clear he'd drop everything if Ghost ever needed him. When, now would be good. Give me 6 hours. Text me the address. Jackson paused. Ghost. This gonna be messy. Hoping it won't be. But if it is, then I'm glad you're coming. Marcus hung up, texted the diner's address, and turned to find both Elena and Rosa staring at him. What? Marcus asked. You just called someone named Ghost, Rosa said. That's your call sign. Was. And this Jackson person, he's coming here to help. If the roads are clear, yeah. Elena's expression had gone carefully neutral. Marcus, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but bringing more violence into this situation. Jackson's not violence. He's insurance. He'll watch, observe, document. Dante makes a move, Jackson makes sure there's evidence. Marcus moved away from the window. You want official channels, fine. But official channels need proof. Jackson's the best at getting proof. He's military. Was. Now he's private sector. Background checks, security consulting, protective surveillance. All legal, all above board. And if Dante finds out he's watching, then Dante makes another mistake, and we document that too. Rosa had moved to her backpack, pulling out her phone. I'm recording everything from now on. Every time Dante or his guys show up, I'll have video. No, Marcus said immediately. You'll make yourself a target. I'm already a target. Might as well be useful. Elena opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She was looking at her daughter with something like pride and something like terror, the two emotions mixing into the particular heartbreak that came with raising children in dangerous times. Okay, Elena said finally. We document, we prepare, we survive. But Rosa, you do not engage. You film from a distance, you stay safe, and if anything goes wrong, you run. Understood? Understood. And they stood there, 3 people and a dog plotting resistance in a diner that smelled like coffee and fear, and Marcus felt something he hadn't felt since leaving the teams. Purpose. Direction. The specific weight that came from knowing exactly what needed to happen next, even if the path there led through blood. His phone buzzed. Jackson had texted back, 6 hours. Stay alive till then. Marcus showed the text to Elena. She read it, then looked at Titan, who'd finally relaxed enough to lie down, though his eyes never stopped tracking the truck across the street. Your friend named you Ghost, Elena said. Why, because I moved through places without being seen. Got in, got out, nobody knew I was there until the job was done. Can't do that here. Whole town knows you're here now. I know. So what's the plan? Marcus looked at the truck, at the men inside, pretending they weren't watching at the town beyond that had learned helplessness so thoroughly it had become culture. Plan's simple, Marcus said. Make Dante visible. Show everyone he's just a man. Then let them decide what comes next. And if they decide nothing, if they're too scared, then at least we tried. Rosa had been recording through the window phone, barely visible behind the curtain. Truck's leaving, and they watched it pull away slow and deliberate, making sure they saw the departure, making sure they understood this was reconnaissance, not retreat. When it disappeared around the corner, Elena locked the front door and flipped the sign to closed. What are you doing? Marcus asked. Giving you time to install those cameras before lunch rush, and giving me time to call everyone I trust in this town, which is about 4 people, but 4's better than none. Elena grabbed her phone. If we're doing this, we're doing it right, which means we need witnesses, allies, and an exit plan if everything goes sideways. Exit plan's your car, Rosa, in the passenger seat, and you drive until Anchor Bay's in the rearview mirror. What about you? I'll manage. With what? Your dog and your stubborn refusal to admit when you're outmatched. Marcus almost smiled. It's worked so far, except for the part where you're washing dishes in a dying town while hiding from whatever put that look in your eyes. The observation landed harder than Marcus expected. Elena saw too much probably came from raising a teenager alone, from reading drunk customers, and violent ones from surviving in spaces where reading people wrong meant not surviving at all. I'm not hiding, Marcus said. Then what do you call it? Recovering from decisions that seemed right at the time and still feel wrong. Elena held his gaze. Join the club. We meet at midnight and cry into cheap whiskey. Rosa snorted. Mom doesn't drink. I'm considering starting. The moment broke. They moved into action. Marcus measuring windows for cameras, Elena making calls, Rosa researching security systems on her phone, Titan supervising with the kind of alert patience that suggested he knew something was coming and was preparing accordingly. At 10 a.m., the door rattled. Someone testing the lock. They all froze. Titan was up immediately, moving to the door, body low, ready. Marcus positioned himself between the door and Elena, hands loose at his sides, weight balanced. Rosa had her phone out, recording. The handle turned, locked, rattled again. Then a voice muffled through the door. Marcus Reeves, come outside, we need to talk. Not Dante, someone else. Older voice, authority in it, but not threat. Marcus approached the door carefully. Who is it? Sheriff Blake. Open up. Elena's face went pale. Don't. It's a trap. Maybe. Marcus unlocked the door, opened it 6 inches, kept his body blocking entrance. Morning, Sheriff. Sheriff Owen Blake was 62, with a face carved from hard weather and harder choices. He'd been a good cop once, everyone said so, back before Dante had figured out which buttons to push and which threats to make. Now he was just tired wearing a uniform that didn't fit right anymore, carrying authority he'd stopped believing in. "You Marcus?" Blake asked. "Yes, sir. Need to talk to you about an incident this morning. Reports of assault, threatening behavior, unlawful restraint." "That right? That's what Dante Voss says. Says you attacked his men without provocation, sicked your dog on one of them, broke another one's wrist." Interesting version. Blake's eyes shifted past Marcus, finding Elena. "That true, Elena?" Elena stepped forward. "No, sir. Dante and his men broke in before dawn, threatened me, hit my daughter. Marcus defended us." "You willing to make a statement? Are you willing to actually file it?" Blake's jaw tightened. "Watch yourself, Elena. Or what Dante'll burn my diner down. He's going to anyway. At least this way I'll have told the truth first." "You're making this harder than it needs to be." "No, Sheriff. You are. You've been looking the other way for 8 years while Dante Voss has turned this town into his personal fiefdom. Now someone finally stands up to him and you're here to make sure the standing up stops." Elena's voice shook, but she didn't back down. "My husband died serving this country. He believed in law and justice, in doing the right thing even when it cost you. You believe in any of that anymore, or did Dante buy it all?" Blake's face reddened. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know my daughter has a split lip because one of Dante's men hit her. I know Marcus stopped it. I know you're here to make excuses for the people who hurt us instead of arresting them. That tell me everything I need to know about you, Sheriff." The silence that followed was brutal. Blake looked at Marcus, then at Titan, then back at Elena. Something moved behind his eyes, shame maybe, or the memory of who he used to be before compromise became habit. "I'll file the report," Blake said finally. "But Dante will file his own. And when he does, there'll be warrants. For you, Marcus. For assault. Might even get animal control involved, claim the dog's dangerous." "Let him try," Marcus said quietly. "You don't understand. This town—" "I understand, fine, Sheriff. This town's scared. You're scared. Everyone's scared. But fear only works if everyone stays scared together. The second someone stops being afraid, the whole system falls apart." Blake studied him. "You're not afraid." "I've been afraid. Of things a lot worse than Dante Voss. I survived them. I'll survive this. Men with your background, they don't always know when to quit. Men with my background know exactly when to quit. We just also know when quitting means someone else suffers." Marcus looked past Blake at the empty street at the town, pretending it didn't see, didn't hear, didn't care. "I quit once, walked away from a situation because fighting seemed like it would make things worse. 2 weeks later, I found out 3 people died because I'd walked away. I don't do that anymore." Blake absorbed this. Who died? Civilians. In a market. Because the bad guys knew I'd left and figured they could do whatever they wanted without consequences. Marcus's voice stayed flat, but something cold moved underneath. "They were right. No consequences. Not for them. And you think there should have been consequences. I think there should always be consequences for hurting people who can't fight back." Blake was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I can't help you. Didn't ask you to. But I can tell you that Dante's planning something. Tonight, probably. He's calling in favors, bringing in people from outside. Whatever happens, it'll be big enough to make the point. What point? That challenging him costs more than anyone can afford." Blake stepped back. "Lock your doors. Keep that dog close. And Marcus, get out of town. While you still can." He walked away. Marcus closed the door. Locked, it turned to find both Elena and Rosa staring at him. 3 people died," Rosa said softly. "Because you walked away." "Yes. That's why you're here." That's why you're doing this. That's part of it. What's the other part? Marcus looked at Titan. The dog was watching him with those amber eyes that saw too much, understood too much, forgave too much. The other part's him. He's never walked away from anything in his life, even when walking away would have saved him. I figure I owe it to him to be half as loyal as he's been to me. Elena's phone rang. She answered, listened, went pale. Okay. Thank you. She hung up. What? Rosa asked. That was Tom, the fisherman. He says Dante's put out the word, anyone who helps us, serves us, sells to us, talks to us, they're done. Blacklisted. Tom says half the businesses in town are already refusing to take our calls. Marcus had expected this. Isolation was classic siege tactics. Cut off resources, cut off allies, make the target too expensive to support. It worked because humans were social animals, and social animals chose the herd over the individual every single time. Except when they didn't. We don't need half the town, Marcus said. We just need a few people who remember what integrity costs. And if we can't find them, then we become them. His phone buzzed. Jackson texting 4 hours out. Situation. Marcus typed back. Escalating. Come armed. The response was immediate. Always. Rosa had moved to the window again, watching the street. There's more of them now. Different trucks, different guys. They're surrounding the block. Marcus joined her. She was right. 4 vehicles. 8 men, all positioned at key intersections. Not attacking, just watching. Establishing presence, making sure everyone in town saw the consequences of association. They're smarter than I thought, Marcus said. That's good, Elena asked. No, that's worse. Smart enemies adapt. Dumb ones just repeat the same mistakes until you can predict them. So what do we do? Marcus looked at his watch. 3.5 hours until Jackson arrived. 3.5 hours of being trapped in a diner while Dante's message spread through the town like infection, teaching everyone the lesson they'd already learned too many times: defiance equals destruction. We wait, Marcus said. We document, and we hope Jackson gets here before Dante decides waiting is over. But even as he said it, Marcus saw the first truck start moving closer, and he knew with absolute certainty that waiting was a luxury they'd just run out of. The truck didn't stop when it reached the diner. It kept rolling slow and deliberate, then circled back. Testing. Probing. The driver's face was hidden behind tinted glass, but Marcus didn't need to see it to understand the message. They were mapping vulnerabilities, calculating entry points, deciding how much force would be necessary and how much would be excessive. They're planning the hit, Marcus said quietly. Elena had moved Rosa away from the windows, positioning her daughter behind the counter, where the industrial refrigerators would provide some cover if things went kinetic. How long do we have? Minutes. Maybe less. Marcus pulled out his phone, texted Jackson. No time. Situation critical. Call state police. Send to Anchor Bay Diner. Officer needs assistance. The response came back faster than Marcus expected. Already done. 15 minutes out. Hold position. 15 minutes. A lifetime in combat, an eternity, when you were trying to keep civilians alive against opponents who'd already decided violence was the answer. Rosa, get in the walk-in cooler, Marcus said. What no? It's reinforced. Steel door. They can't get to you there. I'm not hiding while you and Mom... You're not hiding. You're surviving. There's a difference. Marcus's voice carried the kind of command that came from years of telling people to do things that might save their lives. Your mom needs to know you're safe. I need to know you're safe. Please. Rosa looked at Elena, who nodded. Go, mija. Take your phone. Record everything you hear. But stay inside until we come get you. Mom. Now, Rosa. The girl went tears streaming, clutching her phone like a lifeline. The walk-in door closed with a heavy thunk that sounded too much like a coffin lid. Elena's hands were shaking. She's all I have, I know. If something happens to her because I was too stubborn to run, nothing's happening to her. Or you. That's not how this ends. You can't promise that. I just did. Outside, the trucks had stopped circling. All 4 were parked now, engines running, men gathering. Marcus counted 9 total, more than Blake had mentioned, which meant Dante had called in reinforcements. Professionals, maybe. People who did this for money instead of loyalty, which made them more dangerous because professionals understood efficiency. Titan had positioned himself at the front door body tents, waiting. The dog knew what was coming. They'd done this dance before in Fallujah and Kandahar, in a dozen other places where bad men with guns decided killing was easier than talking. You have a back door? Marcus asked. Kitchen. Leads to the alley. Lock it. Push something heavy against it. Dumpster, if you can move it. Elena ran. Marcus heard the scrape of metal, the grunt of effort. Then she was back, breathing hard. Done. What now? Now we make ourselves hard to reach and hope the police get here before Dante decides property damage is worth the statement. But even as he said it, Marcus saw Cole step out of the lead truck, crowbar in hand. The man's wrist was wrapped, probably sprained from the joint lock Marcus had applied, but that hadn't stopped him from coming back for more. Cole said something to the others, pointed at the diner's front window, and Marcus knew with absolute certainty that talking time was over. Get down, Marcus said. What? The window exploded, inward glass and brick and momentum combining into a weapon that showered the dining room with sharp fragments. Elena screamed. Titan barked, sharp and aggressive. Marcus shielded his face, felt glass cut his forearm, ignored it. The second brick followed immediately, taking out the other front window. Cold air rushed in, bringing with it the smell of gasoline and something else, smoke. They're going to burn it, Elena whispered. They're going to burn my diner. Marcus moved to the shattered window, staying low, using the wall for cover. Cole was holding a bottle with a rag stuffed in the neck. Molotov cocktail. Old school, effective, terrifying. Don't, Marcus called out. Police are coming. You do this, you're looking at arson, attempted murder, federal time. Cole laughed. Police ain't coming, old man. Sheriff Blake's handling a traffic accident on the other side of town. Gonna take him at least 30 minutes to clear it. By then, this place'll be ashes and you'll be explaining to investigators how you started the fire yourself. Cameras are recording everything. What cameras? All I see is broken windows and bad decisions. Marcus glanced back at Elena. She'd pulled her phone out, was filming through the kitchen doorway. Smart. Even if they took Marcus's phone, hers would have backup footage. Elena Cruz, Cole called. You listening? Dante's offering one last chance. You come out, apologize real nice, maybe kiss his ring like you mean it. He might let you keep the place, might even forget this morning happened. Go to hell, Elena shouted back. Wrong answer. Cole lit the bottle. The flame caught, hungry and bright. He cocked his arm back, and Marcus made a decision that would have gotten him court-martialed in the service, but was the only option that made sense now. Titan, stop. The dog moved like black lightning through the broken window, covering the 20 feet to Cole in less than 3 seconds. Cole saw him coming, tried to throw the Molotov anyway, but Titan hit him center mass, 70 pounds of muscle and training and absolute commitment. The bottle flew wild, landed in the street, exploded harmlessly. Cole went down hard, screaming, as Titan's jaws closed around his throwing arm, not biting, just holding, just immobilizing the threat the way he'd been trained. The other men scattered several pulling weapons. Marcus was already moving through the window glass, crunching under his boots. Hands up, voice carrying the kind of authority that made people hesitate. Guns down. Now. Police are 3 minutes out. You shoot that dog, you shoot me, you're all going away forever. Is that what you want?" Nobody moved. The moment hung there, balanced on the edge of violence, waiting for someone to tip it. Then Dante's voice cut through the standoff. "Let him go, dog." Marcus looked past the men. Dante had emerged from the black SUV, walking toward them with the kind of casual confidence that came from never having been truly challenged. He was smiling, but his eyes were dead. "Marcus Reeves, the man who couldn't mind his own business." Dante stopped 10 feet away, hands in his jacket pockets. "You're making this so much more complicated than it needs to be." "Titan, off, here." The dog released Cole immediately, backed up to Marcus's side, sat. His muzzle was clean. He hadn't broken skin, hadn't exceeded the force necessary to neutralize the threat. Professional. Controlled. Everything Marcus had trained him to be. Cole was crying, clutching his arm. "He fucking attacked me." "You were throwing a firebomb at an occupied building," Marcus said calmly. "That's attempted murder. Titan stopped you. That's called saving lives. That's called assault with a dangerous animal. Prove it." Marcus gestured to the street, where at least 15 phones were now recording from nearby windows, from passing cars, from people who'd heard the commotion, and decided documentation was safer than intervention. "Every one of these people just watched you try to burn down a diner with women inside. Every one of them watched my dog stop you without causing permanent harm. You want to press charges? Go ahead. See how that plays in court." Dante's smile had frozen. He was looking at the phones, at the witnesses, at the situation slipping out of his control in real time. "Put the phones down, now." Nobody moved. "I said put them down." An older woman Marcus didn't recognize called back. "No. I'm tired of pretending I don't see what you do, Dante. I'm tired of being scared in my own town. This ends today." Another voice joined her. "She's right. We should have stood up years ago." More voices building like a wave. Tom the fisherman was there filming. The mechanic who'd turned Marcus away was there filming. Even the young dock worker Aaron had appeared, phone held high, documenting everything. Dante's face had gone red. "You people have no idea what you're doing." "We're watching," Tom called. "And we're recording. And when the state police get here, we're testifying. About this, about everything. About the extortion, the threats, the violence, all of it. You'll regret this." "Maybe. But at least we'll have done something instead of nothing." Marcus saw it happening, the shift, the moment when collective fear transformed into collective courage, because one person had decided courage was worth the cost, and courage was contagious in ways fear never managed to be. Dante saw it too. His hand moved toward his waistband, and Marcus's training took over. He was moving before conscious thought caught up, closing distance, intercepting Dante's draw, redirecting the weapon, a compact 9mm, expensive and well-maintained, away from any bystanders. The gun clattered to the pavement. Dante swung wild, caught Marcus on the jaw, and pain exploded bright and clarifying. Marcus didn't swing back. He didn't need to. He controlled Dante's balance, used momentum and leverage, and 20 years of close-quarters combat training to put the bigger man face down on the asphalt, arm locked behind his back, completely immobilized. "Don't move," Marcus said quietly. "I'm not hurting you. I'm just holding you until the police arrive." Dante was breathing hard, cursing, struggling. "You're dead. You hear me? Dead. You and everyone you care about." "I've been dead before. It didn't take." Marcus looked up at the crowd. "Someone want to pick up that gun carefully. Don't touch the trigger." Tom moved forward, used his shirt to lift the weapon, held it gingerly. "Got it." Sirens. Finally. Multiple units coming fast from the south. Marcus felt relief flood through him, followed immediately by the adrenaline crash that made his hands shake and his vision narrow. He held on, keeping Dante pinned, keeping himself controlled until the state police vehicles screeched to a stop and armed troopers emerged, weapons drawn. Hands visible. Now. Marcus released Dante, immediately raised his hands, moved back. Weapons over there. Man holding it is friendly. Subject on the ground is Dante Voss. He pulled the gun. Multiple witnesses. The senior trooper, a woman in her 40s with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing, swept the scene, taking in the broken windows, the burned remains of the Molotov, the crowd with their phones, Dante on the ground, Marcus standing calm with a military working dog at his side. Someone want to explain what happened here? Everyone started talking at once. The trooper raised her hand. Silence fell. She pointed at Tom. You, short version. Tom stepped forward. Dante Voss and his men have been extorting this town for 8 years. This morning they broke into Elena Cruz's diner, assaulted her daughter, threatened them. Marcus Reeves, that's him, defended them. Dante came back with more men, tried to burn the place down. Marcus and his dog stopped them. It's all on video, multiple angles, everything. The trooper looked at Marcus. Marcus Reeves. Yes, ma'am. You armed? No, ma'am. The dog bite anyone? He immobilized a man who was throwing a firebomb. Didn't break skin, just held him. She studied Titan, who sat perfectly still, waiting. Military working dog? Retired, 3 deployments. And you, same, Navy SEAL, also retired. The trooper's expression shifted slightly, recognition, respect, calculation. You hold a suspect at gunpoint. No, ma'am, I disarmed him and restrained him until you arrived. Never touched his weapon except to redirect it away from bystanders. She nodded slowly. Everyone with video footage, I need you to stay. Give statements. We'll need those recordings as evidence. She gestured to her team. Cuff Voss. Read him his rights. Someone check on the injured man. And someone get animal control to check that dog's credentials. If he's a certified working dog, different rules apply. 2 troopers moved to Dante, hauling him upright. He was still cursing, threatening lawsuits, promising consequences. Nobody seemed particularly impressed. Elena had emerged from the diner, moving straight to Marcus. Are you okay? Fine. You terrified, grateful, confused. She looked at Titan. He's incredible. He's had practice. Rosa burst from the diner, ran straight to her mother, hugged her so hard, Elena gasped. I filmed everything from the cooler. The audio's perfect. You can hear Cole talking about the fire, Dante pulling the gun, everything. The trooper overheard. I'll need that phone, miss. Evidence. Can I upload it to the cloud? First, I don't want to lose it. Smart girl. Do it now, then hand it over. Marcus's phone buzzed. Jackson. Arriving now. Still need me. Marcus typed back. Situation contained. Police on scene. Stand by. 30 seconds later, a black pickup rolled up and Jackson Hayes stepped out. He was shorter than Marcus, broader through the shoulders, with dark skin and a shaved head, and the kind of calm intensity that came from a decade of being the man who watched his partner's back from 2,000 yards away. Jackson took in the scene broken glass police crowd, Dante in handcuffs, and grinned. Ghost, you couldn't wait 6 hours. Wasn't scheduled that way. Never is with you. Jackson's eyes found Titan. That the same dog? Yeah. He looks good. Better than you. He is better than me. They clasped hands, the kind of grip that said more than words could. Jackson nodded toward the diner. Elena Cruz. Yeah. And her daughter Rosa. They're good people. Caught in a bad situation. Situation looks resolved. For now, Dante's got lawyers' connections. This might not stick. Jackson's expression hardened. Then we make sure it sticks. I brought recording equipment, surveillance gear, enough tech to document every move Dante's people make from now until trial. We'll build a case so airtight his lawyers choke on it. The senior trooper approached. Mr. Reeves, I'm Sergeant Linda Morrison, Oregon State Police. I need your statement. Yes, ma'am. And I need to know if you're planning to stay in Anchor Bay. Marcus looked at Elena, at Rosa, at the crowd of people who'd finally found the courage to stand together. Yes, ma'am, I'm staying. Good, because something tells me we're going to need you. Morrison glanced at Jackson. Who's this? Jackson Hayes, private security consultant. I'm here to assist Mr. Reeves and ensure Ms. Cruz's safety going forward. Assisting how? Documentation, surveillance, protection if necessary. All legal, all licensed. Jackson pulled out credentials. I've worked with federal agencies, local PDs, corporate security. References available on request. Morrison examined the credentials, handed them back. Keep it legal, Mr. Hayes. We've got enough problems without private citizens playing vigilante. Understood, Sergeant. That's why Ghost called me. He knows the rules, follows the rules, even when the rules make it harder. Morrison almost smiled. Ghost, old call sign, Marcus said. Fitting. She gestured toward her vehicle. Let's get that statement. Then we'll talk about what happens next. Marcus followed Titan at his side. As they walked, he heard the crowd behind them not cheering, not celebrating, just talking. Normal conversation. The kind that happened when fear finally released its grip, and people remembered how to be human together. Inside Morrison's vehicle, she pulled out a recorder. Start from the beginning. And Mr. Reeves, don't leave anything out. The prosecutor's going to need every detail if we're going to make charges stick against someone with Dante Voss's resources. Marcus talked for 40 minutes, laying out everything: the first encounter at the docks, the break-in at the diner, Cole's attack on Rosa, the morning standoff, the Molotov cocktail, Dante's gun. Morrison listened without interrupting, taking notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When he finished, she leaned back. You know what you just described is textbook organized crime intimidation. Yes, ma'am. And you know that testifying against Dante Voss might make you a target. I'm already a target. Testifying just makes it official. You're not worried. Marcus looked at Titan, who'd been lying quietly through the entire statement. I spent 10 years in places where everyone was a target. I survived because I had a good team and better training. This is nothing compared to that. This is your home now. Different stakes. Same principles. Protect the innocent. Stop the guilty. Do it by the book whenever possible. Marcus met her eyes. I'm not looking for revenge, Sergeant. I'm looking for accountability. Those aren't the same thing. Morrison studied him for a long moment. I believe you. But you need to understand Dante's organization runs deeper than one man. We arrest him, someone else might step up. This town's problems don't end with one takedown. Every journey starts with a single step. This is that step. Optimistic for a SEAL. SEALs are always optimistic. It's the only way we survive missions nobody thinks are survivable. Morrison smiled, brief but genuine. Okay, Mr. Reeves, you're free to go. We'll be in touch about testimony, trial dates, protective measures, if necessary. In the meantime, keep that dog close and stay aware. Dante's people are going to be angry, and angry people make stupid decisions. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Marcus stepped out, found Jackson waiting with Elena and Rosa. The crowd had dispersed, mostly back to their lives, their routines, their carefully maintained normalcy. But something had changed in their faces. They'd seen that resistance was possible, that bullies could be stopped, that collective action mattered. Elena grabbed Marcus's hand. Thank you. For everything. Just did what needed doing. No. You did what no one else would. There's a difference. She looked at the shattered windows of her diner. Insurance won't cover this. Dante made sure I could only get the bare minimum policy, and this kind of damage. Her voice trailed off. Jackson spoke up. I've got contractors, good ones. Owe me favors. They'll fix this, probably at cost. Won't be pretty, but it'll be secure. I can't afford, not asking you to, consider it an investment in community rebuilding. Jackson grinned. Plus Ghost saved my life twice. Figure helping his people counts as partial repayment. Rosa was looking at Marcus with something like awe. You really were a SEAL. Long time ago. That's why you didn't shoot Dante, even though you could have. Shooting's easy, not shooting when you could. That's the hard part. That's the part that means something. They stood there in the cold, 4 humans and a dog, survivors of a morning that had reshaped the town's future in ways none of them fully understood yet. Marcus felt exhaustion creeping in the adrenaline crash, the accumulated tension, the weight of decisions made under pressure. Come on, Elena said. Diner's wrecked, but the kitchen still works. I'm making food. You're eating it. No arguments. Marcus started to protest, then realized he was starving. Yes, ma'am. They went inside, stepping carefully over broken glass, and for the first time since arriving in Anchor Bay, Marcus felt something he hadn't expected to feel again. He felt home. The food Elena made tasted like forgiveness, simple eggs and toast and coffee that was too strong and somehow perfect anyway. They ate in the kitchen because the dining room was still covered in glass, and nobody mentioned how their hands shook, or how Rosa kept looking toward the door like violence might walk back through it at any moment. Jackson had his laptop open running facial recognition software on the video footage. Got 7 of Dante's people identified so far. 3 have outstanding warrants in other states. 2 are registered sex offenders who aren't supposed to be within 500 feet of schools. And Cole, your friend with the Molotov, he's got priors for arson and assault with a deadly weapon. How'd they get past background checks? Elena asked. They didn't. Dante doesn't run legitimate businesses that require background checks. He runs cash operations fronts shells. People like Cole don't get hired. They get recruited. Marcus was feeding Titan small pieces of toast, checking the dog for injuries he might have missed earlier. Titan's left shoulder had a small cut from the window glass. Nothing serious, already clotting. How long before Dante makes bail? Depends on the charges. If Morrison's smart and she seems smart, they'll stack everything. Federal weapons charges for the gun, state charges for attempted arson assault, criminal threatening. Add in the RICO implications if they can connect him to the broader organization. Jackson scrolled through more data. But honestly, guy like Dante, he'll have lawyers there within the hour. Bail hearing by tomorrow morning. Free by lunch. Then we have maybe 24 hours before he's back on the street. Less if he's got a judge in his pocket. Rosa had stopped eating. So this was for nothing. He's just going to come back and finish what he started. No, Marcus said firmly. This wasn't for nothing. Everyone saw what happened. It's documented, witnessed, recorded. Dante can't make that disappear. Even if he makes bail, he's damaged. His reputation's damaged. And reputation's everything in his business. His business is hurting people, which only works if people are afraid of him. After today, some of that fear's gone. Marcus looked at Elena. You stood up. Tom stood up. The mechanic, the dock workers, people who'd been quiet for years, they all stood up. That doesn't just vanish because Dante posts bail. Elena wasn't convinced. You don't know this town like I do. People stand up when they're angry. They sit back down when they remember what being angry costs. Then we remind them why they stood up in the first place. Jackson closed his laptop. Ghost's right. Momentum matters. We use the next 24 hours to build support, gather evidence, make it clear that challenging Dante isn't suicide anymore, it's civic duty. How? Rosa asked. Town meeting. Tonight. Public forum. We lay out everything Dante's done, show the video footage, let people testify anonymously if they want. We make this bigger than one man defending one diner. We make it about the whole community taking back what's theirs. Elena shook her head. Nobody'll come. They're too scared. They came this morning. They filmed, they spoke up. That was adrenaline. That was the moment. Tonight, when they're alone in their homes, thinking about their families, their livelihoods, what Dante might do if he gets free, they'll remember why they've been quiet so long. Marcus understood her fear, because he'd seen it before, in villages where the Taliban had left, in neighborhoods where insurgents had been cleared, in spaces where liberation felt temporary, because violence always felt inevitable. People didn't trust peace because peace had betrayed them too many times. Then we show them peace can fight back, Marcus said. We show them peace with teeth. You talking about violence? I'm talking about preparation. Jackson's contractors repair your windows, install real security cameras, alarms, reinforced locks. We organize a neighborhood watch. We make it clear that Dante's not the only one who can be organized. With what authority? Community authority. The kind that doesn't need badges because it's built on people caring about each other instead of fearing each other. Elena looked at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. You really believe that'll work? I've seen it work, in places a lot worse than Anchor Bay. Those were war zones. This is becoming one. Difference is we're choosing to fight with laws and witnesses and accountability instead of bullets. But we're still fighting, and fighting means organization, strategy, commitment. Jackson's phone rang. He answered, listened, his expression darkening. Understood. Keep me posted. He hung up. That was Morrison. Dante's lawyers already filed motions. Bail hearings scheduled for 8 a.m. tomorrow. Judge is Harold Wickham. Elena went pale. Wickham's been to Dante's house for dinner, multiple times. Everyone knows he's dirty. Knowing and proving are different things. Jackson started pacing. We need to document everything between now and that hearing. Every threat, every hint of witness intimidation, every contact Dante's people make with anyone involved in today's incident. If Wickham grants bail despite obvious danger to the community, we appeal. We take it to federal court, if necessary. That takes time we don't have, Marcus said. Then we buy time. Morrison mentioned protective custody for key witnesses. That's you, Elena Rosa. You go somewhere safe until trial. No. Elena's voice was flat, final. I'm not running. I told Marcus this morning I've run before. I'm done. Mom, maybe we should... No, Rosa. This is our home. We leave, we lose it. I'm not losing anything else to Dante Voss. Marcus respected the defiance, but understood the danger. Protective custody isn't running. It's strategic positioning. You go somewhere safe, you stay alive to testify. That's how we win. You going into protective custody? No. Why not? Because someone needs to stay and hold ground. That's me. Then that's me too. They stared at each other, two stubborn people who'd survived different hells and came out believing that survival meant standing firm. Jackson watched them amused despite everything. You two are going to make Morrison's job very difficult, Jackson said. Good, Elena replied. Someone should. Marcus's phone buzzed. Text from a number he didn't recognize. This isn't over. You made a mistake today. Mistakes have consequences. Watch your back. Watch your dog. He showed it to Jackson, who immediately started tracing the number. Burner phone. Probably tossed already. But the threat's actionable. We document it, report it, add it to the pile. How many death threats until they take it seriously? Rosa asked. 1. If it's credible. Which this is. Jackson screenshotted the message, forwarded it to Morrison. Every threat Dante's people make from now on just builds the case against bail. They're angry, sloppy. That's when criminals make mistakes. Titan had moved to the back door, growling low. Marcus was up immediately, hand signals telling Elena and Rosa to get down. Jackson pulled a compact Glock from his waistband, moved to cover the door's approach angle. Someone's outside, Marcus whispered. Police? Elena asked. Titan wouldn't growl at police. He knows their scent, their patterns. Marcus moved closer to the dog, listening. Footsteps. Multiple people, moving carefully but not carefully enough. Jackson checked his phone. Perimeter alert just triggered. 3 heat signatures approaching from the alley. You installed perimeter alerts already? I work fast. Jackson's voice had dropped into combat calm, the same frequency Marcus recognized from 100 missions. Backdoors reinforced but not impenetrable. They commit, they'll get through eventually. Then we don't let them commit. Marcus looked at Elena. Call 911. Tell them armed intruders are attempting to break into your business. Emphasize armed. That gets immediate response. Elena dialed hands steady now that there was action instead of waiting. Yes, this is Elena Cruz at Cruz Diner on Harbor Street. There are armed men trying to break in. I can hear them at the back door. Please send police immediately. The footsteps stopped, voices muffled, then retreating. They heard the call, Jackson said. Smart. They're not committed enough to risk a police response. Marcus moved to the window, watched 3 shadows disappear down the alley. He couldn't identify faces in the darkness, but the body language was clear retreat, but not surrender. Probing defenses, testing response times, learning patterns for the next attempt. They'll be back, Marcus said. Tonight. Rosa's voice was small, scared, in a way she hadn't sounded earlier, when violence was immediate, and there was no time to process fear. Maybe. Probably not, though. They're waiting for something. For what? For Dante to make bail, for instructions, for the right moment when we're tired or distracted, or they think we've let our guard down. 2 police cruisers arrived within minutes, local cops this time, not state troopers. Sheriff Blake got out of one moving slowly, like a man who'd aged a decade in a single day. He approached the door, knocked. Marcus opened it. Sheriff? Marcus, Elena. Got a call about intruders. 3 men, back alley. They ran when Elena called 911. Blake nodded, gestured to his deputy. Check the alley. Look for footprints, anything dropped. He turned back to Marcus. You get a look at them. No faces. But movement patterns suggested familiarity with the space. Locals, probably. Dante's people. Probably. Blake looked exhausted, defeated. I'm supposed to tell you that the state police have requested I provide protective watch on this location until morning. I'm supposed to tell you that you're safe, that we'll keep you safe. But you don't believe it, Marcus said. I believe I've got 2 deputies and a town full of people who might decide loyalty to Dante's more profitable than loyalty to law. I believe I'm one man trying to hold back a flood with a bucket. Blake's voice cracked. I believe I failed this town a long time ago, and people like you are paying for my cowardice. Elena appeared behind Marcus. Sheriff, you're here now. That counts. Does it? I let Dante operate for 8 years. I took his money, looked the other way, told myself I was keeping the peace, when really I was just keeping myself comfortable. Blake's hands were shaking. Your husband was a Marine. He'd be ashamed of me. My husband would understand that good men make bad choices under pressure. And he'd tell you that what matters isn't the mistakes, it's what you do after. Elena's voice was gentle, but firm. You're here. You responded. You're trying. That's more than you did yesterday. Blake wiped his eyes, nodded. I'll post a unit outside tonight. Won't stop determined attackers, but it'll make them think twice. And I'll talk to Morrison, make sure she knows Dante's people are already moving on witnesses. Thank you, Marcus said. After Blake left, they locked every door, checked every window, established a watch rotation. Jackson took first shift with his laptop and surveillance equipment. Marcus would take second. Elena insisted on third, and nobody argued, because the look in her eyes said arguing would be pointless. Rosa had fallen asleep on the office couch where Titan usually claimed space. The dog had given it up without protest, choosing instead to position himself between the sleeping girl and the door. Guard duty. The only job Titan had ever really wanted. Marcus sat in the darkened dining room, watching the street through the broken windows that Jackson's contractor would replace tomorrow. The town was quiet now, everyone inside curtains drawn. Waiting. Anchor Bay had learned waiting was safer than action, silence safer than speech. But something had changed. Marcus could feel it the way he'd felt atmospheric shifts before storms in the Hindu Kush, pressure building, direction changing, the possibility of something different emerging from the static repetition of fear. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered without speaking. Marcus Reeves. The voice was educated, smooth, dangerous in the way lawyers and politicians were dangerous with words instead of weapons. My name is Richard Kessler. I represent Dante Voss. Congratulations. I'm calling to inform you that Mr. Voss intends to pursue both criminal and civil charges against you for assault, unlawful restraint, and destruction of property. We have witnesses who'll testify you attacked Mr. Voss without provocation. You have witnesses who'll lie under oath. That's different. Is it juries believe confident witnesses? And my witnesses are very confident. Your witnesses threw a Molotov cocktail at an occupied building. There's video. Video can be misleading. Context matters. Mr. Voss was defending himself and his associates from a dangerous military animal that was attacking them without cause. Marcus almost laughed. That's your story. That's what we'll prove in court, unless of course we can reach an understanding. What kind of understanding? You leave Anchor Bay tonight. You take your dog and disappear. In exchange, Mr. Voss drops all charges, forgets this unfortunate incident occurred, and Ms. Cruz's business is left unmolested. And if I don't, then Mr. Voss will dedicate considerable resources to destroying you, Ms. Cruz, her daughter, and anyone else who participated in today's events. He'll tie you up in litigation for years. He'll make sure you can't work, can't live peacefully, can't exist without looking over your shoulder. Kessler's voice dropped. Mr. Voss is a patient man with deep pockets and long memory. Do you really want to test him? Marcus thought about the villages he'd helped liberate, the people he'd promised protection, the ones who'd believed that promise right up until the moment his unit rotated out and the Taliban returned and kept promises of their own. He thought about the faces he still saw in dreams, asking why he'd left, why he'd let them believe safety was permanent. Tell Dante I'm not going anywhere, Marcus said, and tell him every threat you just made is being recorded and will be submitted as evidence of witness intimidation. Have a good evening, Mr. Kessler. He hung up. Jackson had been listening from the kitchen doorway. That was stupid. Yeah. Could have bought us time. Could have pretended to negotiate while we built the case. Could have. But I'm tired of pretending. Marcus looked at his friend. How many times did we go into places, promise people we'd protect them, then leave because orders said it was time? How many times did we watch from satellite feeds as those same places fell apart because we weren't there anymore? That was the mission. We did what we could. It wasn't enough. It's never enough. And I'm done with not enough. Marcus stood, moved to where Titan lay with Rosa. The dog's breathing was steady, rhythmic. The girl's face was peaceful in sleep, unaware how close violence had come, how close it still was. This time I don't leave. This time I stay until it's actually finished, whatever that takes. Even if it costs everything. I don't have everything. I've got a dog and a duffel bag and a handful of people who decided I was worth trusting. That's not everything. That's just enough to matter. Jackson smiled. Spoken like a SEAL. Former SEAL. No such thing. You know that. They stood in the darkness, two men who'd survived things that killed most people, waiting for dawn, and whatever dawn would bring. Outside, Blake's deputy sat in a cruiser, running lights off radio, squelching occasionally with routine traffic. The normal sounds of a quiet night in a small town where nothing ever happened, and everything was about to change. Marcus's phone buzzed again. This time it was Morrison, hearing, moved up to 6 a.m. Wickham's calling it emergency docket. Translation: he wants Dante out before the press shows up. We'll fight it, but be prepared. If Voss makes bail, he'll be free by noon. Marcus showed the message to Jackson. 6 hours, Jackson said. We can do a lot in 6 hours. Like what? Like make sure Dante's release becomes the story instead of being buried. I've got contacts at 3 regional news stations. Environmental reporter owes me a favor. She'll love the organized crime angle. And there's a freelance journalist who covers corruption in small towns. She's been looking for a story like this. Press attention might make things worse. Or it might make things transparent. Hard to disappear witnesses when cameras are watching. Jackson was already typing on his phone. Trust me, sunlight's the best disinfectant. We flood this place with light. Dante can't operate in darkness anymore. Elena had woken up, heard the last part. You're going to turn my town into a media circus. I'm going to turn your town into a story people pay attention to. Stories get results. Silent suffering just gets more suffering. She considered this, looked at Rosa, still sleeping, then nodded. Okay, bring the cameras, bring the reporters. Let's make sure everyone sees what Dante Voss really is. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, hope. Maybe. Or just the recognition that sometimes fighting meant choosing visibility over invisibility, noise over silence. Ghost had always worked in shadows. Maybe it was time to work in light. We should rest, Marcus said. Whatever happens tomorrow, we'll need to be sharp. Nobody moved. Rest was logical, but impossible when your nervous system was still running on adrenaline and fear, and the particular exhaustion that came from surviving something that wasn't finished surviving you. Finally, Jackson spoke. I'll take watch. You two try sleeping. And Ghost. Tomorrow morning, when Dante walks out of that courthouse, he's going to see news cameras and reporters asking questions, and a town that's not hiding anymore. That's when he'll realize he's already lost. Might take him weeks to accept it, but the war's over. We just have to survive the last few battles. Last battles are always the bloodiest, Marcus said. True, but we've survived worse. Have we? Jackson looked at him seriously. Yeah, we have. We survived things specifically designed to kill us. Dante Voss is just a bully with money. We've handled warlords with armies. This is nothing. Marcus wanted to believe him, but he'd learned in the dozen different countries that the most dangerous enemies weren't the ones with the most firepower, they were the ones with the most to lose. And Dante Voss had just lost everything that mattered to him: reputation, fear, control. Men with nothing to lose made desperate decisions. And desperate men with resources were the most dangerous kind. Dawn came too fast and too slow, the way it always did when you'd spent the night waiting for violence that might or might not arrive. Marcus had taken the 2 a.m. watch, sitting in the dark with Titan at his feet, listening to the buildings settle, and the ocean breathe, and the particular silence that existed in small towns where everyone was awake, but pretending they weren't. At 5:30, Jackson's phone lit up. He answered immediately, listened, then looked at Marcus. Morrison. She's at the courthouse. Press is there too. 3 news vans, 2 print journalists, and someone from a podcast about judicial corruption. Fast work, Marcus said. I'm motivated. Jackson stood, stretched muscles that had gone stiff from sitting. Hearing starts in 30 minutes. Morrison wants us there. Says seeing community support might influence Wickham's decision. Elena was already awake, had been for an hour, based on the smell of fresh coffee and the sound of dishes being washed with more force than necessary. She emerged from the kitchen, hair pulled back, face set, with the kind of determination that came from deciding fear was expensive, and she couldn't afford it anymore. "Rosa's staying here with Blake's deputy," Elena said. "I'm going to that courthouse." "You don't have to," Marcus said. "Yes, I do. Dante needs to see I'm not hiding. Wickham needs to see there are consequences to letting dangerous men walk free, and I need to see myself do something brave even though I'm terrified." Her hands shook as she poured coffee. "My husband used to say courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the right thing despite being scared to death. So that's what I'm doing." They drove in Jackson's truck, arriving at the courthouse with 10 minutes to spare. The media presence was larger than Marcus expected. Cameras, microphones, reporters doing stand-ups with the courthouse steps behind them. Morrison stood near the entrance, clipboard in hand, looking exhausted but determined. "Elena Cruz?" Morrison asked. "Yes." "Thank you for coming. The prosecutor's going to call you as a witness to Dante's pattern of intimidation. Brief testimony, just facts. Can you do that?" Elena nodded. "I can do that." They entered through security past metal detectors and bored guards who'd probably never seen this much action in a sleepy courthouse that usually handled traffic violations and property disputes. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled, with high windows that let in morning light that felt too clean for what was about to happen. Dante sat at the defense table with Kessler and another lawyer Marcus didn't recognize. Dante had cleaned up suit-tie hair, combed the mask of respectability he wore when pretending to be something other than a predator. When he saw Marcus, Elena, and Jackson enter, his expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition. Calculation. The specific mathematics of revenge. Judge Wickham entered, and everyone stood. Wickham was 73, with white hair and the comfortable face of someone who'd spent decades making decisions that benefited him while calling it justice. He settled into his chair like a king claiming a throne, and Marcus knew immediately that Morrison was fighting uphill against gravity. "The court will hear arguments regarding bail for defendant Dante Voss," Wickham said. His voice was southern genteel, completely at odds with the brutality being discussed. "Prosecution, you may proceed." The assistant district attorney was young, maybe 30, with the kind of earnest intensity that made Marcus think of new lieutenants leading their first patrol. "Your Honor, the state requests that bail be denied. Mr. Voss is charged with attempted arson assault, unlawful threatening, and possession of a firearm during commission of a felony. He has significant financial resources, ties to organized criminal activity in 3 states, and has already made threats against witnesses." "Alleged threats," Kessler interrupted. "Counsel will wait his turn," Wickham said, but his tone suggested the interruption was welcome. The prosecutor continued, "We have documented evidence of witness intimidation, Your Honor. Just last night, Mr. Voss's attorney called one of the witnesses and explicitly threatened legal retaliation if the witness didn't leave town." Kessler stood smoothly. "Your Honor, I made a settlement offer to prevent costly litigation. That's not intimidation, that's negotiation. And the witness recorded that conversation without my knowledge or consent, which in Oregon requires 2-party consent, making it inadmissible. The recording was made in a 1-party consent state regarding interstate threats," the prosecutor countered. "Federal law applies, and federal law allows enough." Wickham raised his hand. "I'll review the recording in chambers. What else does the prosecution have?" "Witness testimony, Your Honor. Elena Cruz, owner of the diner where yesterday's incident occurred, can speak to Mr. Voss's pattern of violent intimidation spanning 8 years." "I'll hear it," Wickham gestured. "Ms. Cruz, please approach." Elena walked forward, hand raising for the oath voice, steady as she swore to tell the truth. Marcus watched her transform, no longer scared, no longer uncertain. Just a woman who'd decided testimony was a weapon, and she knew how to use it. The prosecutor walked her through 8 years of harassment threats, forced payments, destroyed property. Elena spoke clearly, factually, without embellishment. She didn't need embellishment. The truth was damning enough. When she finished, Kessler stood for cross-examination. "Ms. Cruz, did my client ever personally threaten you?" "His men did, on his orders." "Did you hear those orders given?" "Everyone knows who gives the orders." "That's not an answer, Ms. Cruz. Did you personally witness my client ordering anyone to threaten you?" Elena hesitated. "No, but thank you, no further questions." It was masterful, taking 8 years of systematic abuse and reducing it to technical gaps in direct evidence. Marcus saw Wickham's expression shift, saw him building the rationalization that would let him grant bail while telling himself he was following the law. The prosecutor called 2 more witnesses, Tom the fisherman, and surprisingly, Sheriff Blake. Tom testified about extortion, about businesses closing, rather than paying Dante's fees, about a town living in fear. Blake testified about investigations he'd been ordered to drop evidence that had disappeared, complaints that had never been filed because filing them meant retaliation. It should have been enough. It would have been enough in any courtroom where justice mattered more than connections. But Kessler dismantled each testimony with surgical precision, finding technical gaps, highlighting hearsay, emphasizing the lack of direct evidence tying Dante personally to specific acts. He was good, expensive and good. The kind of lawyer who won by making juries forget that legal technicalities were different from moral truth. When testimony concluded, Wickham leaned back. "Mr. Kessler, your argument for bail." "Your Honor, Mr. Voss is a prominent business owner with deep roots in this community. He has no prior convictions, no history of flight risk, and significant ties that ensure his appearance at trial. The prosecution's case relies entirely on hearsay and the testimony of individuals with clear bias against my client. Mr. Voss was defending himself against an aggressive military working dog and a trained killer." Kessler gestured towards Marcus, a Navy SEAL who attacked without provocation. "We request reasonable bail and return of Mr. Voss's lawfully registered firearm." The prosecutor objected immediately. "Your Honor, Mr. Voss drew that weapon in a public space filled with witnesses." "To defend himself," Kessler cut in. "From a man with documented history of violence and a dog trained to kill on command." Marcus felt Titan tense beside him. The dog knew when he was being discussed, knew when lies were being told about him. Marcus's hand dropped to Titan's head, scratching behind the ears, grounding them both. Wickham was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Bail is set at $50,000, Mr. Voss is ordered to surrender his passport, remain within county limits, and have no contact with prosecution witnesses. Firearm remains in evidence pending trial." The courtroom erupted. Morrison was on her feet, arguing. The prosecutor was objecting. Elena had gone pale. But Wickham's gavel came down final and absolute. "This court is adjourned." Dante stood, turned, and looked directly at Marcus. He didn't smile. Didn't need to. His expression said, "Everything I win. I always win. And now you're going to learn what winning costs." Outside, the press descended. Reporters shouting questions, cameras everywhere, microphones thrust toward anyone connected to the case. Jackson had anticipated this, positioned himself as spokesman. "Dante Voss is a violent criminal who has terrorized Anchor Bay for nearly a decade," Jackson said, voice carrying across the courthouse steps. "Today's bail decision sends a message that money and connections matter more than justice. But this community isn't giving up. We're going to fight this in court, in the press, and in the ballot box, until Anchor Bay is safe again." A reporter called out, "Is it true a Navy SEAL attacked Mr. Voss?" Marcus stepped forward before Jackson could intercept. "I'm Marcus Reeves. I'm the SEAL the defense attorney called a trained killer. Yesterday I defended 2 women from an attempted arson attack. I used minimal force to disarm a man pointing a gun at bystanders. That's not murder, that's what every law enforcement officer is trained to do. And my dog, Titan, stopped a man from throwing a Molotov cocktail into an occupied building. He saved lives. If that makes us dangerous, then I guess we're dangerous to people who hurt innocent civilians. Mr. Reeves, are you afraid of retaliation? I'm a Navy SEAL. Fear is part of the job description. But so is standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves. Dante Voss has spent 8 years making this town afraid. That ends now." More questions, more cameras, but Jackson pulled Marcus away, navigating through the press to where Elena stood crying quietly. "I told the truth," she said. "All of it. And it didn't matter." "It mattered," Marcus said. "Wickham heard it. The jury will hear it. And now the whole state's hearing it. That matters. Dante's going to kill us. You know that, right? He made bail. He's free. And we're all dead." "No." Marcus took her shoulders gently. "No, we're not dead. We're documented witness protected by the fact that every news station in Oregon now knows our names and our story. Dante touches us. He's the immediate suspect. His lawyers can't make that disappear." Jackson's phone rang. He answered, listened, his expression darkening. "When? How many?" He hung up, looked at Marcus. "Dante posted bail. He's out. And he's headed toward the diner." They ran. The drive back took 7 minutes that felt like 7 hours. Marcus called Rosa, told her to lock herself in the walk-in cooler, don't come out until she heard her mother's voice. He called Blake, told him to get deputies to the diner immediately. He called Morrison, told her Dante was violating the no-contact order before he'd been free for 15 minutes. They arrived to find Dante's black SUV parked in front of the diner engine, running Dante standing on the sidewalk like he owned it. Blake's deputy was there, hand on his weapon, looking uncertain. "Mr. Voss, you need to leave," the deputy said. "Judge's order says no contact with... I'm not contacting anyone. I'm standing on a public sidewalk, which is my constitutional right." Dante's voice was calm, reasonable, the tone of someone who knew exactly how far he could push without technically breaking laws. "I'm simply observing the damage to this property, which I may have legal interest in given the allegations against me." Marcus got out of the truck. Titan was beside him immediately, reading his tension, preparing for whatever came next. "You're violating the order," Marcus said. "I'm standing on a sidewalk. You're the one approaching me. Maybe I should feel threatened." Dante's eyes found Elena, who'd gotten out on the other side. "Ms. Cruz, I hope you're satisfied with your testimony. Very compelling. Very brave." The way he said brave made it sound like a threat. "Dante, leave now, or I'm calling this in as a violation," the deputy said, finally finding some spine. "Of course, officer. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I respect authority." Dante started toward his SUV, then paused, looking at Titan. "Beautiful dog. Belgian Malinois, right military working dog. Heard they're worth about $50,000 properly trained. Shame if something happened to him. Terrible liability, dangerous dogs like that. Animal control has rules about aggressive animals." Marcus's hands clenched. Every instinct screamed to move to act, to eliminate the threat. But he held still because moving was exactly what Dante wanted, an excuse, a justification, a way to flip the narrative and make Marcus the aggressor again. "Are you threatening my dog?" Marcus asked quietly. "I'm expressing concern about public safety. Dogs that attack people get put down, Mr. Reeves. That's not a threat, that's just how it works." Titan didn't attack anyone. He stopped a crime. "Your version. We'll see what the jury believes." Dante opened his SUV door. "Enjoy your day, folks. I know I'll enjoy mine." He drove away, leaving them standing in the cold morning air, with the weight of what had just happened settling like ash. The deputy looked sick. "I should have arrested him." "For what?" Jackson asked. "Standing on a public sidewalk, his lawyers would have had him out in an hour and filed harassment charges against you. So he just gets to intimidate witnesses in broad daylight. He gets to until he makes a mistake we can prove. And he will make a mistake. They always do." But Marcus wasn't listening. He was watching Titan, who'd tracked Dante's vehicle down the street, body tense, alert. The dog knew. Instinct that had been honed through hundreds of missions, thousands of threat assessments. Titan knew this wasn't over. Rosa emerged from the diner, ran to her mother. "I heard him. I recorded him through the window. He threatened Titan." "It won't matter," Elena said bitterly. "Nothing matters. He's untouchable." "No, he's not." Marcus turned to Jackson. "You said Dante's operation runs on fear and money. We've attacked the fear. Time to attack the money." "How?" Tom mentioned shipments. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Coast Guard's paid off, but the drivers are contractors. We find those drivers, we flip them. We get them to testify about what they're moving and where it's going. That's investigation work. That's what police do. Police aren't doing it, so we do it. Marcus looked at Morrison's number on his phone. "With proper oversight, legal documented by the book, but we do it fast before Dante realizes what we're targeting." Jackson was already on his laptop. "Give me 2 hours. I can pull shipping manifests, cross-reference driver names, identify which routes are suspicious. Then we hand it to Morrison, let her do official investigation. And while you're doing that, I'm going to have a conversation with the harbor master." "Alone?" Elena asked. "With Titan. That counts as backup." "Marcus, you can't just confront everyone involved in Dante's operation." "I'm not confronting. I'm offering a choice. Keep protecting Dante, and go down with him when he falls, or cooperate now, and maybe avoid prison time." Marcus knelt, checked Titan's cut from yesterday. Healing clean. People respond to incentives. Fear was Dante's incentive. We're offering hope instead. He walked toward the harbor before anyone could argue. Titan matched his pace, alert but calm, trusting Marcus's decision even when that decision led them toward danger. The harbor master's office sat at the end of the main pier, a weathered building that smelled like diesel and old paper. Marcus knocked, didn't wait for an answer, walked in. Gerald Moss was 60, balding, with the soft body of someone who'd spent decades sitting behind a desk, making decisions that benefited his wallet instead of his conscience. He looked up when Marcus entered, and fear flickered across his face. "Marcus Reeves." "Mr. Moss." "You can't be here." Dante's out on bail, facing federal charges, and when those charges expand to include everyone who enabled his operation, you're going to be on that list. Unless you cooperate now. Moss's hands shook. "I don't know what you're talking about." "You know exactly what I'm talking about. Shipments every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Coast Guard gets tipped off when to look the other way. Manifests get altered. Contraband moves through your harbor with your knowledge and your approval." Marcus sat down uninvited. "But here's what Dante didn't tell you. The moment things get difficult, he'll throw you under the bus without blinking. He'll claim you ran the whole operation, that he was an innocent businessman who trusted the wrong harbor master, and his expensive lawyers will make sure that story sticks while you spend 20 years in federal prison." "Or," Moss whispered, "or you cooperate with the state police investigation. You provide documentation, testimony, evidence. You help us build a case so airtight Dante can't wriggle free. In exchange, you get immunity, witness protection if you need it, and maybe you get to live the rest of your life without looking over your shoulder." Moss was quiet for a long time. Then, "I have a daughter. She's in college. Pre-med. If Dante finds out I talked, Dante's going to prison. Whether you help or not. Your cooperation just determines whether you go with him. Marcus leaned forward. Your daughter. You want her visiting you in prison for the next 2 decades? Or do you want to walk her down the aisle when she gets married, meet your grandkids, actually be her father instead of inmate number whatever? I want... Moss's voice broke. I want to be someone she's not ashamed of. Then do the right thing, now, before it's too late. Moss pulled out a filing cabinet key with shaking hands. Everything's here. 10 years of altered manifests, payment records, communications with Dante's accountant. I kept copies because I knew someday he'd try to make me the fall guy. Insurance. Smart. Cowardly. Smart would have been saying no the first time he offered money. Moss handed over a thick folder. But better late than never, right? Marcus took the folder called Morrison immediately. I have evidence. Harbormaster's willing to testify. We need protection for him and his family, and we need it now. Morrison arrived with 2 state troopers within 20 minutes. They took Moss into protective custody, documented the evidence, and promised to expand the investigation to include every business Dante had compromised. This is good work, Mr. Reeves, Morrison said, as they loaded Moss into an unmarked car. Technically, you probably violated a dozen regulations doing this, but since it resulted in voluntary cooperation and admissible evidence, I'm going to pretend I don't notice. Appreciated, Sergeant. One question, though. How'd you know he'd kept insurance files? Because scared people always keep insurance. They know they're doing wrong. They know they'll be blamed eventually, so they document everything hoping it'll save them when the reckoning comes. Marcus watched the car drive away. Dante built his empire on fear. But fear makes terrible loyalty. The second it's safer to turn on him than protect him, everyone turns. Dominoes, Morrison said. Exactly. We just knocked over the first one. By that evening, 3 more of Dante's associates had contacted Morrison requesting immunity deals in exchange for testimony. The mechanic who'd turned Marcus away, a restaurant owner who'd been laundering money, the deputy harbor master who'd handled bribes. Each one brought more documentation, more evidence, more proof that Dante's operation was systematic, extensive, and completely illegal. Jackson compiled everything into a presentation he called The Prosecution's Greatest Hits and sent it to every news outlet in Oregon. By 10 p.m., Dante Voss was the lead story on 3 networks with reporters digging into his finances, his properties, his connections to corrupt officials across 5 counties. At the diner, they watched the coverage with something like disbelief. This is really happening, Rosa said. He's actually going down. Don't celebrate yet, Marcus cautioned. Cornered animals are the most dangerous. Dante's losing everything. That makes him unpredictable. As if summoned by the words, Marcus's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Heavy breathing on the other end, then, You destroyed my life. Dante. Voice stripped of its smoothness, raw with fury. You destroyed your own life, Marcus said. I just documented it. That dog of yours, Titan, he's registered in your name, right? That makes you liable for anything he does. Any damage, any injury. Dante laughed, broken and bitter. Accidents happen to dogs. Cars hit them. Poison gets into their food. They run off and never come back. Such a shame when a hero dog dies because his owner made enemies. Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. You touch my dog, there's no law that'll protect you from what I'll do. Threats, Mr. Reeves. From a decorated veteran. How disappointing. Dante's voice steadied, found its center again. You've taken everything from me. My business, my reputation, my freedom. So I'm going to take something from you. Something you love. And then we'll see how brave you are when you're the one who's lost everything. The line went dead. Marcus stood, moved to where Titan was sleeping. The dog woke immediately, sensing Marcus's distress. "He's coming for you," Marcus whispered. "I won't let him. I swear to God I won't let him." Elena had heard the conversation. "We call Morrison. We tell her Dante made a specific threat against Titan. That's a violation of the restraining order. By the time police respond, Dante will be gone and the threat will be denied. His lawyers will call it harassment." Marcus was thinking tactically now, running scenarios. He's not going to come at Titan directly. Too obvious. He'll try to make it look like an accident, or he'll hire someone, or he'll wait until we think we're safe. So what do? We don't let Titan out of our sight. Ever. Jackson, you've got motion sensors, right? Perimeter alerts. Already installed around the boathouse and the diner. Anything bigger than a cat trips them. My phone lights up. Good. Set sensitivity higher. I want to know about everything that moves. They spent the next 2 hours fortifying their positions. Cameras, sensors, redundant locks, emergency protocols. Rosa programmed everyone's numbers into speed dial. Elena stocked the diner with supplies in case they needed to shelter in place. Jackson ran backgrounds on every known associate of Dante's, flagging anyone with histories of animal cruelty or violence. At midnight, exhaustion finally caught up with them. They established watch rotations again, 2-hour shifts, always someone awake, always someone watching. Marcus took first watch with Titan beside him. The dog was restless, sensing something wrong in the air, in the way Marcus kept checking windows in the tension that had settled over all of them like a storm waiting to break. "I've kept you alive through 3 war zones," Marcus whispered to the dog. "I'm not losing you to a small-time criminal in a nowhere town. That's not how your story ends." Titan's tail thumped once. Agreement. Trust. The absolute faith that had carried them through impossible situations because they'd never let each other down when it mattered most. At 2 a.m., Jackson's phone buzzed. Motion sensor. Boathouse. They moved fast, Jackson driving Marcus in the passenger seat with Titan alert in the back. Elena on the phone with Morrison. The night was moonless cold, the kind of dark that swallowed everything beyond your headlights. The boathouse looked empty when they arrived. No vehicles. No visible threats. But Titan was growling low and continuous, and Marcus had learned years ago to trust the dog's instincts over his own eyes. "Stay in the truck," Marcus told Jackson. "The hell I am. Someone needs to be alive to testify if this goes wrong." Marcus got out Titan beside him, moving toward the boathouse with every sense on high alert. The door was slightly open, not broken, just unlatched. He pushed it wider, staying out of the fatal funnel, letting Titan check the interior first. The dog stopped halfway in. Sat. Alert posture. Marcus entered, found his duffel bag opened again. But this time something had been added instead of taken. Photographs. Dozens of them. Titan sleeping. Titan on the porch. Titan walking with Marcus. Each photo had a red X drawn across the dog's face. And underneath a note in block letters, "Tomorrow, your dog dies. Then you." Marcus felt something ancient and terrible wake inside him, the part that had earned him the name Ghost. The part that moved through enemy territory like death itself, the part he'd tried to bury when he left the service because he knew what happened when that part took control. Jackson appeared in the doorway. "Jesus, he's insane." "No, he's desperate, which is worse." Marcus gathered the photos, the note evidence for Morrison. "He's announcing his intention because he thinks it'll scare us into making mistakes. Classic intimidation." "Is it working?" Marcus looked at Titan, who was watching him with those amber eyes that had seen him at his worst and his best, and never judged the difference. "Yeah," Marcus admitted. "It's working." They returned to the diner as dawn broke. Turner Morrison already there with a forensics team. She examined the photos, the note, and her expression was grim. "This is enough for an emergency hearing. We can get Dante's bail revoked for threatening a witness." "By when?" "This afternoon, maybe evening." He said tomorrow. That's today now. We don't have until this afternoon. Morrison didn't have an answer for that. The morning passed in suspended tension. News vans had multiplied outside the diner. The story had gone regional, then national. Former SEAL defending small town against corruption. Dog threatened by criminal organization. David versus Goliath, with better cameras and lower stakes. Except the stakes didn't feel lower to Marcus. They felt absolute. At noon, Dante's lawyer called Morrison requesting a meeting. Neutral location. Just Dante, Kessler, Marcus, and Jackson. No police, no press, no witnesses. "It's a trap," Jackson said immediately. "Probably," Marcus agreed. "But it's also an opportunity. We record everything. We get him to make more threats on tape. We give Morrison everything she needs to bury him." They met at an abandoned warehouse at the edge of town, the same place Logan had confronted Marcus months ago, where everything had started. The symmetry felt intentional. Dante was trying to make a point. Dante looked terrible. He'd aged a decade in 2 days, his confidence replaced by the manic energy of someone who'd lost control and was desperately trying to reclaim it. "Marcus Reeves," Dante said. "The man who destroyed everything." "You did that yourself. I just documented it." Semantics. Dante was pacing, unable to stand still. "You want to know what it's like, watching everything you built over 10 years collapse in 48 hours. Watching people you protected turn on you. Watching your money, your power, your reputation vanish because one stubborn bastard with a dog decided to play hero. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who was tired of watching bullies win." "So you made yourself the judge, the jury god himself deciding who deserves punishment." Dante stopped pacing, faced Marcus directly. "You have no idea what you've done. The people I protected this town from, the real criminals from Seattle, Portland, the cartels they're going to move in the second I'm gone. And you know what they'll do? They'll make me look like a saint. Then we'll deal with them too." Dante laughed. "You and your dog against organizations with actual resources, actual soldiers, actual power. You're delusional." "Maybe, but I'm also not going to prison for the next 20 years, so I've got that advantage." The facade finally cracked completely. Dante pulled a knife, not a gun this time. Something more personal, more final. "I'm done talking." Marcus didn't move. Neither did Jackson. They'd both seen knives before in closer quarters in worse situations. This wasn't combat. This was theater. Dante trying to reclaim some sense of control by making threats he couldn't follow through on. "Put it down," Marcus said quietly. "You pull this, you're just giving us more evidence, more charges. You're already looking at 20 years. Want to make it life? I'm already dead." Dante's voice broke. "My life is over. Everything I built, everyone I knew, all of it gone. So what do I have to lose? Your freedom, your chance at parole, the possibility that someday you get out and rebuild something better." Marcus took a careful step forward. "I know what it's like to lose everything. I've been there. The difference is what you do next. You can keep destroying or you can stop and accept consequences, and maybe find some kind of redemption." "Redemption," Dante spat the word. "From what? From keeping this town functional when everyone else had given up. From providing jobs, security order. I wasn't some cartoon villain. I was a businessman who understood that in places the law forgot someone had to fill the vacuum. You filled it with fear. I filled it with structure. People knew the rules. Follow them, prosper. Break them, suffer. That's civilization, Mr. Reeves. That's what separates us from animals. No, that's tyranny. Civilization is when people choose to cooperate because they believe it's right, not because they're terrified of consequences." Dante stared at him. Knife still raised, body trembling with fury or desperation, or the particular madness that came from watching your identity disintegrate in real time. Then slowly he lowered the weapon. "You win," Dante said. "Congratulations. I hope you're ready for what comes next. What comes next is you going to prison. Everything else we'll handle." Dante dropped the knife, turned, walked out of the warehouse. Kessler followed already on his phone, probably calling for a surrender arrangement that would minimize his client's additional charges. Jackson let out a breath he'd been holding. "That was close. That was stupid. We shouldn't have come. But we got him on tape threatening you with a weapon. Morrison can use that." "Maybe. If his lawyers don't get it excluded." Marcus was already calling Morrison, reporting what had happened, knowing even as he did that lawyers would argue about context and admissibility and whether fear of losing everything constituted mitigating circumstances. The legal system moved slowly. Justice, when it came in increments. But sometimes increments were enough. That evening, Dante Voss was arrested again, this time for violation of restraining order assault with a deadly weapon and additional charges related to the evidence Moss and the others had provided. His bail was revoked. He was remanded to county jail pending trial. The news broke across national media. Small town stands up to corruption. Community finds courage. Navy SEAL and his dog become symbols of resistance. Marcus hated the attention, but understood its value. Sunlight really was the best disinfectant. With cameras watching, Dante couldn't reach them. With reporters documenting everything justice had to at least pretend to be fair. 3 months later, Dante Voss pled guilty to racketeering, extortion assault, and a dozen other charges. In exchange for his cooperation identifying associates in other states, he received 18 years with possibility of parole after 12. Judge Wickham was investigated, eventually stepping down after evidence emerged of 2 decades of judicial corruption. Sheriff Blake retired early, spending his final months trying to make amends he knew could never be sufficient. And Anchor Bay began the slow process of rebuilding new businesses, opening old ones, reopening people, remembering how to live without fear, pressing down on them like weight. Marcus stayed. He renovated the boathouse, started training service dogs for veterans with PTSD, using Titan as the lead instructor. Elena expanded the diner-hired staff, sent Rosa to Oregon State, with enough savings that the girl didn't have to work her first year. Jackson opened a regional office for his security firm, employing several former military personnel who understood that protection was sometimes the most important mission. On quiet evenings, Marcus would walk the pier with Titan, watching boats come in, listening to the ocean breathe, feeling something like peace settle into spaces where violence used to live. One evening, Rosa found him there. She was home for winter break, changed by college in ways that made Elena proud and terrified. "I'm thinking about criminal justice as my major," Rosa said. "Maybe law school after." Yeah, because I watched you stand up when no one else would. I watched my mom testify even though she was terrified. I watched a whole town remember that courage is contagious." Rosa looked out at the water. "I want to be the kind of lawyer who makes it easier for people like you to do the right thing, who fights for justice instead of just winning." "That's a good goal. Did you ever think it would work? When you first stood up to Dante, did you actually believe you could win?" Marcus thought about it, honest with himself and her. "No, I thought I'd probably die trying, but I also thought dying while protecting people was better than living while watching them suffer. Turns out there was a third option, which was living while protecting people. That's the best option. Just took me 40 years and one very loyal dog to figure it out." Titan's tail thumped at the sound of his name. The dog was 9 now, graying faster, moving slower, but his eyes still held that fierce loyalty that had never wavered through war zones and small-town corruption and every moment between. Marcus knelt, rested his forehead against Titan's. "Good boy. Best boy. You saved me more than I saved you, you know that." Titan's tail thumped again. Agreement. Understanding. Love in its purest form, the kind that didn't need words, because it was built on years of choosing each other again and again, through everything. They stayed on the pier until the stars came out. 3 humans and 1 dog watching a town that had learned the most important lesson: that courage wasn't the absence of fear. Courage was feeling the fear, acknowledging its weight, and choosing to act anyway, because some things mattered more than safety. Things like dignity, justice, protection of the innocent, things that couldn't be bought or sold or compromised away. Dante had been right about one thing: someone had to fill the vacuum, but he'd been wrong about what filled it. It wasn't fear or power or control. It was people choosing each other, choosing community, choosing to stand together because standing alone meant everyone fell. And sometimes it was a retired SEAL and a combat dog deciding that one more mission mattered, even if that mission was just washing dishes and protecting a diner and showing a scared town that bullies only won when good people decided fighting back cost too much. Marcus stood called Titan to follow and walked back toward the boathouse, where warmth and safety and something like home waited. Behind them, Anchor Bay settled into evening, its lights flickering on one by one, pushing back the darkness. Not because darkness was defeated, but because people had decided that light was worth the effort of maintaining. And in the end, that was the only victory that mattered, not defeating the darkness once, but choosing every single day to keep the light burning together until darkness remembered that it had never really owned these streets at all.